Hello, greetings, welcome, one and all, to the Sunday Show. I'm Forrest Valkai, and I woke up an hour ago and ate an entire box of Lucky Charms. And I'm joined today by the lovely and handsome Dr. Aron Adair. How are you doing today, my friend?
I'm doing just fine. I hopefully won't have the same sugar high you have, but I did finish off some chocolate cake not long ago.
Hell yeah, hell yeah. I hear you recently become older. Congratulations to you on surviving. That's fantastic. We've got a great show for everybody today, as we always do here on The Line. This is the show for you if you are a theist, a believer of some kind or another, if you are a creationist or a flat earther or a young earther, if you want to challenge the age of the earth, or evolution, or the shape of the planet, or where we live, our position in the cosmos. If you are any kind of science denier, this is a show for you, because you got a physicist and a biologist here to ramble at you. The number on the bottom of the screen there, 720-619-2288. You've also got a link down in the description below where you can call in over them internets. Just make sure that whenever we take your call that you tap your phone and wake it up so that we can hear you, because if your phone's asleep, we can't hear it. These are all things that you can do now to connect to us and defend your ideas and present your thoughts in front of an audience of tens of thousands of people. Before we get started, really quickly, while I'm thinking about it, because I will forget if I'm not careful, we have other great shows coming up for you this week. Tomorrow, I will be hosting Skeptalk with somebody named Skeptical Heretic from the TikToks. We're bringing her over here to talk to you guys a little bit. She's real cool. We've also got Chewed Gum coming up on Tuesday with Alyssa and Eve. On Wednesday, we've got The Hang Up with Matt and Eric, Skeptic and Scoundrels. Then on Thursday, we've got TACIS, Transatlantic Call-In Show with Josie and Luxander, all the way back around to Sunday Show again with Matt and Aron again. Aron, you're killing it. My goodness.
I think that might actually be the previous Sunday evening.
I've lied to you all. No, the next one is with Matt and Eve. The next Sunday show is Matt and Eve. I don't know why the layout looks the way that it does, but it does. Oh, that's a Sunday show after dark. That's tonight. Yes.
And tonight. It's also slightly out of date as well, because tonight it's with Matt and Arden.
It's just watch the shows. All right. I don't know what to tell you. I just work here. All right. I don't know what you want from me. We've got a really good show for everybody today. We've already got calls pouring in. But if you're a theist or a science denier of any kind, we're talking about, creationists, flat earthers, transphobes, anti-vaxxers, all the people out there who think that they know more science than us. We're here to have conversations about it. We're here to discuss it. We're here to talk about it. We're here to help you learn more cool things and to present and to defend the ideas that you hold so dearly. That is our promise to you, is that we will be here taking calls until we die. Number again is 720-619-2288. And with that, I don't have anything else. Do you want to jump right in, or do you have something you wanted to present at the beginning, or like?
Just an interesting reminder, because you mentioned of all the different science scenarios out there, flat earthers were just a few days away from the final experiment down in Antarctica to see if...
All right.
Well, scientists are right about if you go to Antarctica in the middle of winter, the sun doesn't set.
Okay.
Which is just one of those cool facts about living on a ball that flat
Yeah.
earthers can only pull their hair out about and whimper that they don't have a model because it's another way of saying they have no fucking clue what's going on.
So I was going to say, so like it sounds like that this is like you're saying it's the final experiment. You're saying flat earthers themselves are running this experiment, or like what are you saying?
You haven't heard anything about this because this has been going on for months in the
No,
buildup. So
I've been trying to pick up from context clues what you're saying.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. I thought you were in the loop. So
No.
the main way I know about it is like people like Simon and Dan has been talking about it, Professor Dave and others. But basically, a pastor out of Colorado was kind of getting sick and tired of the way the debate was going and say, hey, what sort of like absolutely simple observation could we do that is just absolutely definitive? And even the flat earthers would agree. And based even on like their own videos, one of the things they would say is Antarctica is this weird place because in their projection map, Antarctica is basically the outer ring of the disk Earth that ultimately like holds in all the oceans. And at that location, one of the things that's just not possible is having a 24-hour sun, having a sun that would stay up in the sky all day. Because of the way their model goes, it's always doing these loops a little bit above or below the equatorial region. So you could potentially have a 24-hour sun in the North Pole, but not at the South Pole. And then they argue it's like, and that's the reason they keep rubes like us away from the South, because otherwise then we would discover that. Let alone, of course, there are people down in Chile that actually get the same experience because they're far south enough. But details.
Sure.
But nonetheless, the pastor, his name is Will Duffy, basically says, "Hey, I will pay for flat earthers and round earthers to both go down and see this for themselves. Bring whatever equipment you want and see with your own eyes, live stream it, and with a lot of wailing and gnashing of teeth, like finally two relatively prominent flat earthers are going, a few round earthers who have been like debunking this on YouTube for a while are going, and they're just a matter of days away before they're down there heading to base camp, and then hopefully with clear weather, they're going to see the sun basically go all the way around, which if I could go, I would love to see it just for the sake of...
I'd be all about that.
The same way I went and drove to see the solar eclipse earlier this year, because it was just totally worth it.
Yeah, absolutely. That's fantastic. I thank you for telling me. I didn't know that any of that was happening, and I am delighted about that. Flat Earthers, this is your show. Call in and tell us why this experiment is going to work the way that you want it to. This experiment of literally looking at the sun. It's going to be great. With that, we'll jump right in. We'll start taking calls so we can open up more lines, so more people can call in. Again, the number on the bottom of the screen there is 720-619-2288. Science Deniers, give us a shout. We're going to start with, let's go for Emily. Emily, pronoun she, they, calling in from collapsing octagons. As a polytheist who wants to know what steps she should take when starting to lose faith. Emily, you are on the line with Forrest and Aaron. How you doing?
Hello, Forrest. Hi, Dr. Adair. Thank you for taking my call.
Pleasure to chat.
I believe we've spoken before, have we not?
Yes, I spoke with you and Eric when we both were on the line.
Okay, cool. Sweet. And so the last time we spoke, I have notes here on your last call. I wasn't sure if I was on it, but it said, how do you remain skeptical in the face of undeniable experience? I believe we were talking about anecdotal evidence and things there. And now I see you're saying what steps should you take when starting to lose faith? It sounds like you're starting to lose faith. Is that the case?
Yes, somewhat. I'm still in like the limbo area, but I'm trying to convince myself that that basically what I've experienced and stuff in the past is not rational and stuff. So I'm kind of trying to come out of that.
Okay. So tell me a little bit about like that process. Like you like what's starting to change your mind?
So something that I didn't mention when I was last on the line is I have a psychotic disorder, and
Mm-hmm.
and so it through like meds and therapy and stuff like that. A lot of people are trying to convince me that like the experiences that I've had are attributable to that, and so it's kind of one of those things that are you know intellectually something to be true, but the feeling is different and how you feel about it is different. And so that's kind of like what I'm wrestling with.
Yeah. So, like, it sounds like you're in a very, very, very familiar place for a lot of atheists, where you have this belief system that you've held on to for a very long time, that meant something to you at one point, and you're starting to see the cracks, and the cracks are becoming more and more undeniable. And now you need to find a way to preserve your emotion and your mental states and all these things while watching a major part of your understanding of reality fall apart. Um, I think you'd find great community, in the comment section of this video, and also if you call places like Recovering from Religion to talk to them about how to get through this. As for me, I think it's all about perspective. It's all about framing. It's not scary when you're excited. You can have that exact same feeling of getting on a roller coaster and terrified of what's about to happen to you, is the same feeling of about to get on that roller coaster and being delighted and excited and over the moon about what's about to happen to you. It's the same thing, just with different context. And so where you're at right now, losing this faith, how wonderful for you. How exciting that you now get to learn more cool stuff about the universe around you, and you get to develop new tools, which may sound scary at first, but how wonderful that you get the chance to develop new tools, to stand on your own 2 feet and make sense of the world that you live in. And to be more right about stuff is pretty tight. So as far as like what steps you should take, I would say be patient and gentle with yourself. Make sure to remind yourself that this is a long and sometimes difficult and painful process, and reach out to people who have been down that same road and see if they can offer some sort of guidance and some sort of comfort to you as you progress along your journey. And more importantly, be sure to always approach every part of this with curiosity and joy and wonder and excitement, and to reframe the feeling that you're feeling right now as something that you can be excited about, that you now get to learn new things and experience new things and see the world in a new way, and look back on yourself now the same way that yourself now looks back on yourself at 10 years old, and how differently you saw the world then, and just realize what progress you've made and how proud of yourself you are for coming as far as you have. That's what I would say for right now. Aaron, do you have a different idea?
I would basically reiterate that many folks of all sorts of different religious or polytheistic, monotheistic backgrounds, having these sorts of transitions, having these sorts of feelings that they had one time felt something profound and feel like the most real thing in the world, but then time and reflection changed how those feelings were interpreted. The feelings were absolutely real, but how you integrate it into the rest of what you know is what's going to be out there changing. And I reinforce basically what Forrest is saying. That is going to have a combination of fear, excitement, and the best thing you can do is keep talking about it with other people.
Okay. Thanks. I'm trying to get that curiosity and excitement. I'm a big science fan. I really like watching your videos, Forrest, and especially the ones on evolution and stuff like that. And so I'm trying to get that excitement for discovering new things.
Yeah.
I also have one more quick question, if you don't mind.
Sure, go ahead.
If I lose faith and I discover more about the universe and stuff like that, am I able to hold on to friendships that I've had in the past with people who are in the faith, and how do I navigate that?
Well, it's up to you and them, isn't it? It really depends on what their belief system tells them to believe and how much you're willing to deal with that. I know people and have friends that are faithful people, that are religious people, that have different beliefs than me, and that's fine. As long as they keep it at their house and I keep my beliefs at my house, we don't really bother about it. And if we do have a discussion, it better be a respectful one. But if somebody has a belief system of evangelical Christianity where they're going to tell me that, that we can be friends, but I do think that you are going to hell and you deserve it. Or if they're going to tell me, I do think that, gay and lesbian and trans and bisexual and all these different people, just aren't worthy of the same kind of love as me and all these different things then I don't think that we're going to be friends, because they have a fundamentally different opinion on what is moral and good. And so for me, it's all about boundaries. If you want to keep friendships, as long as they're cool with you and they're not trying to change your mind for their comfort, as long as you're cool with them and you're not getting any kind of agita from them based on their belief system, then yeah, be friends. Who gives a shit? Just don't allow your need for friendship to trample over your need for self-respect.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, thank you both for your input. I really appreciate it.
I appreciate you calling in, Emily. Have an awesome rest of your day. Thank you so much for being here.
All the best.
Good luck on your journey. Goodbye.
Thank you. Bye.
What a nice person. She was really cool. We've got plenty more calls, but we still have lines open. That number on the bottom of the screen is 720-619-2288, or use the web link in the description below if you have any questions about theism, about atheism, about science, or about goats. If you want to talk about goats, call us. We're going to talk to Todd, pronouns he, him, calling in from tight necks. Gotta stretch them out. I don't know. Who is a theist who is asking, can you believe in any kind of deity based on probability? Todd, you are on the line with Forrest and Aaron. How you doing?
Hey, pretty good. What's going on, fellas?
I'm all right myself.
Hey. So my question is, first of all, I've been watching y'all's show for a while. I watch a lot of Matt Dillahunty on his debates, also his show with y'all, and I've probably logged over 200 hours now on my research just on him alone, and there is no doubt about it. There is no way to prove the existence of a deity, much less a Christian God. You just can't do it. I don't even understand anymore why people keep trying, because it always is going to come down to faith. But my question would be, if you looked at it from a probability standpoint of, you cannot prove that there's a God or disprove a God. I mean, that's kind of where we're at, I would think, is no one can prove that there is one. No one can prove that there isn't one for lack of evidence. So could you not look at that as a 50-50 split and say, well, gambling odds, I'd like to take my chances and believe in any kind of a God if it can't be disproved. I mean, is that even rational at all? What would you say to that?
No, it's
still not rational in any way.
I have a couple of questions, but it looks like, Aaron, you have a question first.
Yeah. So when you say that, we're going to treat this probabilistically, well, the thing is, even if something is you don't know, you can still try to put some bounds on those probabilities. And honestly, that's how all science works anyways. Everything we have, we'll have probabilities of something being true or false so absurdly high or low that for all practical purposes, it's 100% or 0%, but it's always bound. And to me, I find the God proposition, when you look at all the various properties that gods are supposed to have, or even just some of the basic ones, namely a mind without a physical body, because I can look out and find lots of minds without physical bodies and not a single example of a bodiless mind. That, I think, has to go into the way I make the initial calculation. And if we just stick with just Homo sapiens, just how many humans have been around, because we're pretty sure humans have minds. At least the humans I've talked to seem like they have minds. They definitely have bodies. And I can count up, well, how many humans have there been? Homo sapien humans. And that's roughly 100 billion. So we have literally 100 billion samples of minds, all of them have been embodied.
Right.
So when you tell me there exists a non-bodied mind, I'd say, well, just based on that prior research of knowing about humans, that means the prior probability starts out at 1 in 100 billion, which would be way lower than 50-50.
Right.
Yeah,
And I'm just
I've got
talking the
several.
most generic sort of God of all. I'm just saying just a mind without a body, let alone being
Mhm.
spaceless, timeless, performing miracles, having something to do with your afterlife,
Right.
caring about the shape of your genitals, all those sorts of things that are really particular and even less well evidenced, just takes whatever that prior is and just keeps digging the hole. So I guess the question is, do you even have a reason to think it's 50-50?
Yeah. Well, I guess I would look at it, even if the percentage was as small as you could imagine getting to without hitting zero, you know, that still would be irrational. Correct? In y'all's opinion?
Yeah. Yeah. So
Okay.
there's
Okay.
a few things here that you said. Is it number one, you talked about you can't prove this one way or another. So it is an unfalsifiable claim, which Aaron just touched on.
Right.
So
I got you.
do you give the same credence to any other unfalsifiable claim? Do you believe that it's a 50-50 belief system, just totally pick and choose if we live in a simulation, or if you're a brain in a vat, or if you're actually insane in an asylum right now thinking you're having this conversation? Those are also unfalsifiable claims. That doesn't mean that there's a 50-50 chance. It doesn't mean that they're rational. None of that.
Right.
You also, something else that Aaron talked about that was really important is you say you've called in and you talked to Matt a bunch and you studied a bunch all about the Christian God. So it's not even just saying there's a God. It's I know what the God's name is, and I know what kind of food it wants you to eat, and I know that it uses he, him pronouns, and I know who it wants me having sex with, and like there's a lot more there than just maybe a thing exists. It's maybe this one particular thing in the Bronze Age slave owning manual exists. That's what we're talking about. And so like that's to say that and then say, well, it's 50-50 chance because it can't be proven is the same as saying there's a 50-50 chance and the tooth bunny exists because I can't prove it doesn't. Understand. And therefore it's this crazy thing. So like, why is that good enough for you? Why is, if you're saying that this is totally based on faith and you're calling in as a theist, why is faith good enough for you in this case where I don't think it would ever be good enough in pretty much any other case?
No. Well, I will say this. The only other next part of this is I believe I'm getting to the point now where I believe all religion is strictly man-made for, obviously I think it's for comfort. It's for emotional comfort of things that we can't explain. We don't like dealing with death and what comes after. So even, if you were doing all this for emotional comfort, is that irrational? I mean, because people do a lot of things for emotional comfort, whether it be alcohol, drugs, therapy, the list goes on and on. Maybe eating too much, overeating. People find comfort in a lot of different things. So what about it?
Right.
If you're just doing that for comfort reasons, is that just absolutely crazy that somebody would do that?
So you drew a comparison to overeating, drugs, alcohol, all sorts of abuse. You can see how faith is also a problem. If those are the comparisons you're drawing, then surely you agree with us. Then yeah, faith is a drug. It's a poison that you're putting into your mind, convincing yourself of things that are not real in order to make yourself think that maybe the universe might just be specially designed with you in mind in order to escape what? Fear of death, fear of nothingness, fear of meaninglessness. None of those things need to be frightening. They just need to be dealt with. And so, it is irrational. And I'm not going to say it's crazy or insane or anything like that, because that's a silly thing to say. But it is certainly a problem. And it's not a necessary problem either.
I will put in one caveat that there could be a tiny bit of rationality to at least outwardly say you believe, not because of the afterlife, but because in this life, because basically if you have neighbors, that will be problematic if you are not with the masses on this sort of question. That's a situation where you could say that it would at least be rational to outwardly make those confessions. But ultimately, if you internally think there's no good reason to believe it, that there's no actual evidence for it, and if anything against it, then it is inherently irrational, or at least it's a non-rationally held belief.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, I would say
I didn't realize,
in general,
you know,
true is better than useful in pretty much all cases.
right. I guess another way I was going to say about that was kind of looking at it from a my body, my choice. You know, whatever, you know, what's my mind. If I want to use this to cope with whatever, you know, I have that choice. But I do see that when I gave those points, I kind of answered my own question. When I was making those comparisons to drugs and alcohol.
Nobody's saying you don't have the...
I appreciate you I appreciate you throwing that out there. That was good.
Yeah. Nobody's saying you don't have the choice. We're just saying it's a terrible choice to make. And so, like, in the same way that, like, you know, not to get into a totally different political discussion, but, like, to stick on the idea of drugs and alcohol, I fully support, like, total just decriminalization and legalization of all those things. I think everybody should be able to do whatever drugs they want if they're an adult and they want to do drugs. I still think it's a terrible, stupid thing to do, and I think people should be educated on why that sucks and why you shouldn't be doing that. I just don't think it's reasonable to put people in prison for it. Similarly, so again, I'm not trying to get into that whole discussion. I'm just giving an example. Similarly, same thing here with this. I don't care what people, you know, have access to believing. I think that you should have access to all sorts of ideas. I think people should be encouraged to explore terrible ideas and be taught about terrible ideas, be taught about ideologies that led to horrible things and horrible outcomes, so that they know how better to recognize other terrible ideologies and thought patterns. And that way they don't fall into those things again and again. The reason why we teach about, you know, atrocities throughout history, about slavery and genocide and murder and all these different things, is so that people can recognize that shit and say, okay, so this is a way of thinking that is clearly not functional, and here's why it sucks. And so I think exploring religions and exploring different philosophies and different theistic ideas and claims and, like, pseudoscience and all these things, they should be out there. People should know about them. People should talk about them. They should not be believing them. And we should be explaining why you should not be believing them.
I got you. Last question. Would you have a different opinion? I don't know if I should say opinion or respect for the Christian community as a whole. If everybody hypothetically were to say, hey, we understand we can't prove this, but, you know, going off just like the reason of the comfort thing, we choose to do it anyway, regardless. I mean, if there was just some form of admittance that, hey, we understand it's not, we can't prove it. I mean, would that change your opinion at all, or would you just still be in the same boat of,
If anything, it might make it worse. I would still say your beliefs are still harmful, and they are doing harm to you, and they are doing harm to your community, and they are doing harm to the world at large, and therefore I still have a problem with it. And now I have even less respect because you don't even think you're right. You don't even think that you know something that I don't. You don't even have the benefit of saying I misunderstand science and therefore I think it's ridiculous, or I misunderstand the atheist position, therefore I don't think it's tenable. I am going based on my best logic, my best assumption, my best understanding of the world, and coming to a conclusion that you disagree with and think is atrocious. That I can at least give courtesy to. But to say, yeah, I know it's bullshit, but fuck it. That's putting that on the back of, actually, I think that it was really cool that there's this monster in the sky that drowned everybody in the world because he fucked up his own design so bad. And I think that if you're gay, you deserve to burn for all eternity. And I think women should be subservient to men and not speak or hold positions of power. And I think this, and I think that. But, I just don't fucking care why. I just do. That, I think, deserves a lot less respect, if anything.
Okay, that makes sense. Yeah, I was raised in a Christian home. I obviously come to the realization that I was indoctrinated by all of this as I've gotten older. I'm 42 years old. I'm trying to read the Bible from a non-biased point of view, and when I do that and I listen to everything y'all say, I mean, there's just no doubt about it. It's not something that's realistic to me in any way. But I still think in the whole deconstructing, it's very hard to come to grips with things and Definitely there's that fear factor of what if I'm wrong.
Right.
I think that's the problem. That's the biggest fear from any Christian, whether they want to say it or not, is, if they were trying to let go, is what if I'm wrong?
And what if you're wrong about Islam?
It's put on you that, right, right. It's, there's just this whole scare tactic that's been invented.
Yeah,
and
that's
that's
why
the worst
it's so
part about
popular. That is why in the year of our Dark Lord 2024, we still have these Bronze Age ideals being pushed on children, because it is a cycle of abuse. All these religions use abuse to spread. They scare the hell out of kids and tell them that they are wicked and evil and sinful and bad and broken by the very nature of their birth and existence. They are already corrupted to the point of irredeemable, just terror and nightmare and evil. And the best, most moral thing that could possibly happen is that they burn for all eternity. The definition of morality, goodness incarnate, is going to send them to a lake of fire. And that is a good thing, because they are so evil just because of how they were born. But we love you, and you need to do XYZ thing otherwise, and then you can be saved. And that's this twisted mockery of love that you're offered at such a young and vulnerable age. And people who are abused in that way are likely to then turn around and abuse some other children, because they think that it's good, because they've been taught that it's good by other people who are abused. It's a cycle of abuse. It's absolutely horrible. And I understand what you're feeling. We have people call in every day feeling these same things. But you need to wonder why you don't feel the same thing about literally every other religion. And even if you're a Christian, there are over 40,000 denominations of Christianity alone, 40,000 different flavors of your religion, many of which believe all the other ones are wrong and are going to hell, regardless of their faith, regardless of their acts, regardless of anything. They are going to hell because they're not in this one out of the other 40,000. So you may not be the right kind of Christian. The other versions of the Christian gods can be the ones that can judge you. And you don't fear those either.
Right. Well, you just made me think of something else that I've never even thought about before when you were talking about the children. Obviously, I know there's a separation between, church and state and, things of that nature. But, I mean, if you had a chance to put an age limit on when it would be allowed legally to, teach religion, I mean, what kind of age would you put on that?
I wouldn't. I don't think that's ethical. No. You should never.
If we're definitely talking in the school systems, for example, I think what we would do is not teach any one religion, but we would teach basically, here's the diversity of beliefs within humans. And so here's all sorts of religions that exist now. Here's all sorts of religions that existed in the past. And it's worth knowing is like what the difference between a Catholic and a Protestant is, and understand how those divisions came about. Difference between Confucianism and Buddhism, to understand things going on in the East, and so on. You wouldn't understand the world if you didn't teach the existence of religion to children. The only difference is, do you teach them that one particular version, one very sectarian version, is absolutely true, and the other ones not only are false but must be suppressed? That's where we get in trouble.
Yeah, I'm never going to say that there should be a limit on ideas of period. I don't think that there should ever be a limit on what ideas can be spread, when they can be spread, anything like that. Of course, there are certain tiers in what is appropriate to teach a kid. So, like, for example, if I wanted to teach physics to first graders, I wouldn't come in there talking about general relativity. I would come in there talking about, look, when I drop this marker, it falls. That's called gravity. Let's talk about that. So same thing with religion. If someone wants to explain religion to any child of any age, that's fine. Some people believe these things, and here's why they believe these things. That's not a big deal. And that's very different than laying on, threats of eternal torture and talking to them, telling young girls that they are temptresses and Jezebels because they showed their shoulders at a family function. Like those types of things, I think should be societally, socially stigmatized. But I certainly would never try to pass any kind of a law telling people what you can or cannot tell your children.
I got you. Yeah.
I have a question for you, Todd, before we move on.
Yeah.
Sorry, go ahead.
Yes, sir.
Oh, no, if you have more
I was just going to say, I I was just gonna say I totally understand where you're coming from. I understand we can't put those kind of laws into place. It was just kind of an hypothetical,
Yeah, there's a difference
That's
between
all it was.
education and indoctrination, and we need to be focusing more on
Right.
education.
Right.
My question for you, Todd, is I have on the call screen here that you called in last Sunday with the exact same question as an agnostic. And our call screener also has a note here that you've called in a bunch of times as an atheist, as an agnostic, as a theist, as all sorts of things. So what's going on with your journey, man? Are you asking the same questions from different positions to try to explore them? Are you changing your own mind a whole bunch? Like, what's going on with you?
No, I've only called in twice. Last week was my first, and I told him I was, I was trying to explain to him the same way. It's kind of hard to label myself. I think since last week I've kind of been able to label myself a little bit better. Last week I was pretty much trying to say I was a theist agnostic. I just wasn't thinking of it that way. I guess in my mind I had kind of felt like I wasn't sure on really what I was. I don't want to denounce Christ, at the same time I don't want to, say I'm an atheist. I at the same time, I was kind of looking at it like maybe I'm just agnostic. Maybe there is something out there, and I don't want to close the book on it, so to speak. Yeah, I want to leave it open, until I know for sure. So I guess that's kind of where I am. Is I'm not ready to close the book just yet. I will say this: I don't, as far as reading the Bible and the Christian religion, I believe historically a lot of those things are accurate as far as people and places and things of that nature. I don't believe the miraculous things about it anymore. I don't see any proof for that. So I think at best we can look at it, from a historical standpoint sometime as far as, certain people go. But that's about as far as you can go with it.
Was Christ a good person?
So was Christ a good person?
Yeah.
If
he was who he says he was he a good person?
I don't know. I guess you would have to say he's not a good person if he was claiming to be God, and he wasn't. So
if he was actually the Son of God, if he was who he said he was he a good person?
He was the Son of God.
That's not what I asked.
I'm not. It's very hard for me to answer that. I know where y'all are going to come from. I would assume I would know, because the God of the Old Testament does not paint a very loving picture of himself. And if he's on board with that same deity, then obviously he's not either.
He said that not a jot or tittle of the law shall change, and that he comes not to change the law but to enforce it. He comes not bearing peace but a sword. He comes to set brother against brother, that no one should love him unless they hate their own parents. He said a lot of things, and I'm just curious to know if you think that, and he said some good stuff too. I'm curious to know if you think the good things that he said outweigh the bad, is all.
I don't know. I think I'm, still going to have to do my own reading to come to that conclusion. I mean, based off of everything y'all have taught, yeah, I'm on board. I agree with you completely. But I do think I will admit I haven't read everything, word for word for myself yet either. So, I need to do that. And that's the journey I'm on. And even though I don't, and even though I'm already kind of at my place, I'm still going to continue to read through, whether it's a true story or not. I want to know what I'm talking about.
I hope you have fun reading, because denouncing Christ is fun and cool. And maybe we'll get there together sometime. Anyway, Todd, we're going to move on to the next call, but I appreciate you calling in and talking to us today.
Hey, thank you, sir. Bye.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Happy Sunday.
What a fun call. Aaron, I don't know if you're seeing line number 1 there, but that's definitely up your alley, and I talked like that entire fucking call. Would you be interested in taking that one?
Oh, we can. I'm not looking at Call's studio, so I don't even know any of the abstracts on what we're dealing with. So
Okay.
your call, but if you think one's up my alley, then how can I say no?
It very is. It's not even a theist call. It's just something about physics and a thing that I don't understand.
Well, the worst that can happen is I can make a complete fool of myself on national television.
That's because we've all done that. We've all been there. Let's go ahead and try it because like this is just this person was waiting for about an hour, and I want to know what this is, and then we've got 2 theist calls lined up after that. So let's talk to Gabe, pronouns he, him, calling in from Torqued Xantham. Like twisted gum. You know what I mean? Like gum that I don't fucking, it's so stupid. It's such a stupid thing to say. He wants to ask about single electron theory. I don't know what that is. But let's hear it. Gabe, you're on the line with mainly just Aaron. How are you doing today?
Good, Forrest. I also have a question for you, but for now, I have a friend. He's a recovering flat earther. He's in prison right now, and I send him all these books from like Sean Carroll, Carl Sagan, Tyler Sagan.
That is an insane way to start the call.
Well, he's the one that told me he wanted to tell both of you that. Because I talked to him, talked to him all about all the show. Okay. And well, he's no longer a flat earther, but he has that question. He read about the single electron theory from Sean Carroll, and he wanted to know if it's viable at all, and also if photons disappear instantaneously, how is it that we can get them from the sun or from other galaxies?
Okay. I'm going to answer the electron one first, and then I'll have you repeat the other question because I got a little bit of the call lost in my ears. But single electron theory. So first up, for the rest of the audience who wants to know what the halibut that's all about. So there's an interesting thing. Every single electron we look at has the same mass, has the same charge, is like always the same properties. How is it that we can guarantee that every single electron we come across seems to be identical? And one way that you could answer that question is it's all actually the same particle, because here's one of the really weird things in quantum mechanics. Since we now know about the existence of antimatter, when you're actually doing the math for it, an antimatter version of an electron, we call it the positron because it has a positive charge. It has the same mass as an electron, but opposite charge. It also seems to behave the same way if it were an electron traveling backward in time. So what if there's only one electron in the whole universe zipping back and forth in time? So that way it can be every single place that we see those electrons everywhere, and it's just always the same electron, which is why it always has the same properties. So it's a way of trying to explain that consistency of what the particle looks like, but it has, of course, the seemingly absurd conclusion there. Now, all sorts of things pop up in quantum mechanics that make you say, that's absurd, but is it real? And in this case, the reason we have good grounds to say that isn't the case is the fact that all the matter that we interact with from day to day is regular matter. Antimatter is exceedingly rare, and when it does pop around, it's short-lived because it finds a matter particle and annihilates. If the single electron theory were correct, there would absolutely have to be equal amounts of matter and antimatter in the universe, and that is not what we see. We see vast majority of everything we ever encounter is regular matter, and it's an open question why there's more matter than antimatter in those ways. So single electron theory doesn't explain that. Also, we have other explanations for why all electrons are the same. It's all the same underlying quantum field. So in quantum field theory, which is something that developed after single electron theory was first thought up, it was never like proposed that seriously. It was always a little bit tongue-in-cheek. But nonetheless, you get the same explanation because you say it's the same field everywhere. An electron is a excitation of the field, and you actually always get these quantum amounts or single bit amounts popping out from those fields. So that's why you get the same sort of consistency. It's basically like, hey, there's an A note played all over the universe. So the reason you keep measuring 420 hertz is because it's the same field throughout the universe.
Okay.
So it's an interesting mind-bending thought, but it doesn't physically work.
Fucking neat. It's real neat.
Okay, could I ask about the photons? How do they work if they disappear almost instantaneously? Like, how is the information retained, and how is it that we can see them from like our local star and from other galaxies?
So which thing are you saying? Can we? Why can we see? I missed part of what you said. I'm sorry.
Photons.
Photons.
Yes.
Well, the reason we see them is they're fundamentally are light. They are packets of light. So if you're going to see anything, it's going to be light. And the reason, though, we can see stupendously far away, where now with James Webb we're seeing, so many billions of light years away, is because space is phenomenally empty. There's almost nothing to get in the way of that light as it travels from the earliest phases of the development of the universe. Now, this wasn't always the case, though. If we really rewind the clock back to the first roughly 300,000-ish years of the existence of the observable universe, technically the universe was opaque because the universe was so absurdly hot. Photons being fired out would actually encounter ions and would get bounced around. So you actually couldn't see across the universe like we can now. You had to wait for the universe to cool down enough that the whole universe wasn't plasma. And this happened roughly 380,000 years after the Big Bang, the hot phase of the Big Bang. Only 380,000 years. At that point, the universe cools down enough that light can then travel through unobstructed, and the leftover of that effect is the cosmic microwave background.
Okay.
So I don't know if that fully answers your question, but that's at least where my mind was going based on what you said.
Okay, I'll let him know. Can I ask Forrest a question unrelated?
Go for it.
What would be the minimum amount of human pairs needed? Let's say we have an apocalypse. How many humans would be needed in order to human to reproduce again? Like it's kind of like the Adam and Eve question. How minimum amount of humans needed?
I don't know for sure. That's not really my area of expertise, but I would say like the last skills, we have had a couple of events like that, what we call bottleneck events, where our population has been brought down next to nothing. Ooh. Sorry, my door just moved and it freaked me right the fuck out. We've had, several bottleneck events where the human population has been brought down next to nothing. As far as I know, we never got too far below something close to like 10,000. And even at that point, we have remarkably low genetic diversity for our species. And so like to bring us down to that again would be problematic. The blanket answer that I'd want to give is you would need like, at least 10 to 20,000 breeding pairs would be a good idea. You know what I mean? But the fact that we have suffered bottlenecks before and we already have such limited diversity, that makes it a problem, because bringing us back down to that same number again is more dangerous than it would be for like chimpanzees or something with a lot of diversity to spare. So like, I don't know the straightforward answer to that question. If I had to hazard a guess, I'd say if you went too far below like 1 to 200K, you'd be in trouble. But that's just me, just off the top of my flipping head. And I'm sure there is a geneticist right now who is pounding their keyboard and wanting to call the show and tell me how stupid I am.
I just quickly looked because I remember there's a similar bottleneck happening with cheetahs. And they're talking about like there's a lack of diversity, genetic diversity within cheetahs. And right now their population is in the neighborhood of 8,000. So if you're below 10K, you're going to probably have issues. And I don't know what the gestation period is for cheetahs, but I'm guessing for humans, it's longer to develop a baby that can then actually like do anything on its own compared to cheetahs.
Oh yeah.
So
yes,
if I were to guess dollars to donuts, if humans went below 10K, there would be all sorts of it would not be a good time genetically.
Yeah, that's exactly what I'm thinking as well. And by the way, that just for funsies, that cheetah bottleneck that we're experiencing is because of conservation efforts of lions. Lions attack and kill cheetahs all the time. And lions and cheetahs were both endangered and having problems. And we kind of just picked one that we thought was cool. And we're like, we're going to save the lions. And then a lot of cheetahs died. And so what really needed to happen was just humans needed to stop fucking up the environment. But yeah, dude, that's the best answer I can give you right now. I will look it up and see if I can come up with something a little bit more coherent. But like just kind of opinion of a guy who knows a thing about it sometimes, that's what I would say.
And I was going to ask how, like, for example, those 10,000 to 20,000 pairs, how far cousin removed? Like, you know, would they
as far as possible.
Cousins removed?
As far as possible.
Okay.
Because that's kind of, unless you're British nobility, and then it doesn't matter, I guess. Anyway, with that, we're going to move on. We got two other Theist callers waiting, and I want to get to them, but I really appreciate you calling in, Gabe.
Take care.
Thank you. Take care. Bye-bye. Love the chance to dig into some cool stuff. And like that's, you know, you're talking about this single electron and all this stuff. And like, I can get where it's coming from with my limited physics background. Like I get what you're saying. And like, honestly, if it's one of those things where like, it does sound crazy, but at SciCon, the Center for Skeptical Inquiry, they had their convention, and Brian Cox was a speaker there. And he talked for an hour about how the space-time itself seems to also be made of constituent parts. And that's what the newest research is showing us. And like, he explained it for an hour, and I'm still just here like, what the fuck? What? Oh, okay. Yeah, sure. Like, so I felt the exact same way when you explained this. I'm like, that doesn't sound like it makes any kind of sense. But I'm willing to just hear it for a second because weirder shit has turned out to be possible, and so like, okay, it's fine.
Yeah, the universe,
Nutty.
it's got lots of weird stuff for us to continue to discover. It'll keep us busy.
For real. That's I love that Richard Feynman quote is that nature's imagination is so much greater than ours, and it's never going to let us relax. Like it's just, there's so much more cool stuff out there.
Well, that might be what Feynman said, but he's just copying. I think that's from Hamlet. There are more things in nature than there are in all of your philosophies. That was to Horatio.
Yeah, more things in heaven and earth, Horatio. Yeah.
Yes.
More things in heaven and earth than in your philosophy. Love that.
Yeah.
We've got two Theist callers left for right now. So we might take these, and these will be our last ones for the last couple hours of the show. We'll see. Or if there are any other Theists watching, this is your chance to call in. The number on the bottom of the screen, 720-619-2288. We'll take Theists, we'll take creationists, we'll take flat earthers, we'll take science deniers of all kinds. This is your show. If you think that evolution isn't real, or the earth is 6,000 years old, or there's only two sexes and they're synonymous with gender, or that pick your favorite other one, man, or that vaccines cause autism and don't work, it's something else. It's I want to do science denial show, man. I want to take all these people's calls because we get so many in the comments. The one in particular, if I can, there's one person that I've seen. I'm not trying to call anybody out, but I am specifically calling this person out right now. There's one person who has been in the comments of every fucking show that I've been on recently, and just comments the same transphobic nonsense. Just this person can't say what women's are. They've got a fish as their profile picture. And it's just every single show. And I'm like, call in. And they're like, you can't tell me what women's are. I'm like, call in. And they're like, you don't even know. You don't have a definition. I'm like, call in. And it's just, dude, I want that person. I want that person to call in. I want the all of our Instagram followers to call in that love us.
I especially want transphobes to call in if they have fish icons, because I know there are multiple species of fish that do change their sexes depending on the population ratios. So some fish will go like, I will become a dude today, and that'll be for the good of the species. So it's like, do they have to have a Matt Walsh fish going around, or to be ostracized by the rest of the group and saying, yeah, we're transsex because that's our genetic makeup. Get with the program.
Yep. It's very advantageous. I found that person's comments and I put them in the chat here. They're never going to see this, but like, I want that person to call in. That and the damn FBI guy. I want that dude to call in so bad. Oh well. But this person too, here we go. Yes. You were just banned in the chat. Call in. Call in. I will tag you here. There we go. Call in. There we go. All right. So with that, we're going to jump on to our next Theist call. This time we've got Daniel calling in from Mighty Ants,
Hmm.
who is a theist who says that God is just as real as the dirt we walk on. That sounds like a Bible quote or some like proverb. You know what I mean? Like people don't talk like that usually. It's very strange, this phrasing here. But Daniel, you're on the line with Forrest and Aaron. How you doing?
Hi, how's it going?
Going really, really well, man. Really, really well.
I just need to mention one thing. I am a little sick, so please excuse me just a little bit.
Sure. Yeah, no, if you have a cough or something, just please either mute your phone or move it away from your face or something so you're not just like in the mic coughing, you know what I mean?
Got you.
All right, so tell us about this God. Which God are we talking about?
Yeah, first off,
Also, please turn off your stream or whatever you have in the background because I can hear what sounds like an echo of myself.
Wait, what? I don't have anything?
Are you calling in with the web caller?
No, just on my phone.
Am I on speakerphone?
Oh, yeah, let me fix that. Is that better?
Yes, thank you.
Yeah,
I think
sorry
so.
about
That
that.
already sounds a little bit better, yeah.
Got you. Yeah,
Cool.
that loser.
So
needs to
what God do you
call in.
believe in?
I just wanted to say that. God, Jesus.
Okay. And so this is the Christian gods. We're talking about Jesus and Yahweh and all them, the whole gang. And you say these things are real. Why do you believe that?
I think he's real as fuck just because, like, order and, intricate design, I feel like it can't come from just accident.
Okay. So what intricate design? Because order is kind of just a property of the universe that we live in. And it's like, it's going to be hard for me to explain why I don't think that that's a reason to believe without getting into like some real serious weeds. I'm happy to go in that direction if you want, but I can tell you from experience, it's not super productive. Intricate design, however, seems to be a little bit more focused. So what specific like intricate design are you talking about?
Okay, so my biggest thing is DNA.
Okay.
The coding of the DNA. I'm not a master at this, but like the intricacies of DNA and the whole processes behind it, I feel like it's similar to like how computers are coded, and I feel like that kind of reflects a higher mind.
So this sounds an awful lot like the Stephen Meyer argument that DNA is like a computer code and therefore it needs somebody coding it properly, and that you can't randomly change computer code and make a better computer program. Therefore, you can't randomly change DNA and make a better animal, and therefore evolution isn't real and design is real. Is that the long and short of what you're getting at, or are you not going that far? You're just sticking with it's a code and it seems coded.
Yeah, I do think it's coded. I just do want to say one thing. Fuck Stephen Meyer. I do not fuck with that guy. He is like one of my biggest ops. But I do agree with what you just said, yes.
Cool. All right. Well, sweet. All right. So the issue here is that if DNA is code, it's certainly very intricate and it's very interesting, but it's not very good code. And that is because when we look at, there's the term that usually gets thrown around is junk DNA, which is kind of a misnomer. But like you have a lot of DNA that doesn't do anything, that is actually retroviral DNA that was squished into you a long time ago, or into your ancestors a long time ago, that your genome now has to shut off intentionally through epigenetic changes. So like, if this is a code, if you're comparing it to a computer code, it's like having a computer game where like 50% of the code for the game, it has an extra line of code that says, don't ever run any of that. And if you do, the game crashes. Why is it there then?
Okay.
So like, does that bother you at all when you talk about this being this intricate code? Does it bother you to know that there's so much of this code that isn't supposed to be there if it is designed?
That shit pisses me off a little bit, but if you look at any like big game studios, big designer studios, there's always like things in the code. It can always be optimized. You know what I mean?
But we're talking about the God, right? We're talking about the most powerful, all-knowing, super intelligent, super powered guy in the universe, the guy who made the damn universe, right? So surely that guy wouldn't be making the same mistakes as a silly ass Bethesda designer who accidentally used a table as a bookshelf or whatever the fuck else they had to do. So just like it sounds a bit ridiculous to say this code is so perfect that a god must have designed it. That's why it looks an awful lot like something full of errors and mistakes and problems that would either indicate a very novice designer or natural processes. Because if you say that this DNA was created through natural processes, it makes absolute sense that it would have so many problems. But to say that it came from an all perfect, all knowing, beautiful, benevolent God, that's weird.
That is a great point. Can I just say one thing?
Please.
Shout out Emmanuel Diaz and shout out Maybach, because they are two of the greatest minds I know right now, and they're doing great in life. I don't know
who those people are.
And sorry, that's just me, but I really appreciate your point, and I really understand that. But who says that God can't purposefully make a mistake?
Well,
that seems
purposely
like the
making a mistake
of a design. Like,
yeah,
when you design
also,
something, it's to an end. And if you do something contrary to that end, I'd say you screwed up your design. All the more so.
Yeah.
It's also interesting when we mentioned this being like computer code, because I do computer coding for my day job, the one that really pays for my mortgage. And oh boy, is there a lot of times where something doesn't work and I have to comment it out. And if I'm a good coder, before I pass it along to everyone else, I get rid of all those coded out sections. Our DNA is like mostly like coded out sections that accidentally get turned on and off by mutations, which occasionally actually makes the program run better. Like, as Forrest was mentioning, we're filled with things like the leftovers of old viruses that infected our ancient ancestors. Sometimes we got literal copies of our code, so that way other parts are just being randomly manipulated. We have these things called like signs and lines, these short and long sections of DNA that just literally hop around the genome, doing nothing else other than making copies of themselves and bouncing around. And this is all the stuff that you would say, I'm pretty sure the tech lead should have made sure this didn't get to the production code.
Right. And the big thing for me is that, like, purposefully making a mistake doesn't make any sense. A purposeful mistake is an oxymoron, right? Mistakes are unintentional. And so what you're talking about is like this god deliberately made problems for what? What would be the point of it? It's the same kind of argument as the people who say, yeah, well, God put fossils in the ground to test your faith. It's like, why? Why not just make something that's like functional and make it right? Why do you have to put in these problems to make it look like you weren't involved so that people will doubt you, so that they will go to hell? What's the point of that?
You know what? That is a great point. I do have two answers to that. So, Number one, what's the point of that? You're not going to like this answer, but no one can know the point of God. Number two, I do think that was intentional to leave those in, because I think we were coded from the beginning in a certain way that allowed us to grow as we went on. Does that make sense? Like, I don't necessarily believe in evolution as it happened, but I believe evolution was sort of like put into us by the Lord.
So you believe in theistic evolution? You believe that?
I believe in theistic evolution in a sense, yeah.
So do you believe in a literal Adam and Eve, that there were two individual humans from which the rest of humanity sprung?
I do believe in Adam and Eve, just because the Bible, I have to take that as it is. So
you do believe in the Bible as well?
As someone with faith, yeah, I do believe in the Bible. As someone with faith, I do have to take the Bible as it is. But I can fill in those missing pieces, like from what I know, like my knowledge on things.
Why? That doesn't make any sense. If you believe the Bible
again, yeah.
I'm sorry. I want to say, if you believe the Bible, then the Bible explains how life was came about, and you're like, okay, I'm going to believe that, and then everything else that is clearly demonstratable in reality that the Bible doesn't say, I'll just cram that in. Why not just go, full hog and just deal with the Bible as it is, and like, why try to square the circle of reality, but only some reality? That seems like a lot of extra work.
Yeah, well, I will admit I do have my problems with the Bible. I do think that the Bible does not go into as much detail as it should, from my perspective at least. So I think
The
that
least of the
some things
possible
that aren't
problems with it.
specifically stated in there can definitely be left up to your interpretation.
Okay, so let's play with this idea for just a second. You believe in
Okay.
the literal, in this Christian God, and you believe in the Bible. I'm going to go ahead and assume, but I'm going to ask you: do you believe in hell?
Oh yeah, hell is just as real as God.
Okay,
like God is real as hell. God is real as hell.
And I love that. And so you go to hell for what reasons? For not believing in God and for not obeying the edicts of Christianity. Is like
that
there
I
are
also
some
have
Christians
an issue
who
with
say
a little bit.
Yeah, so there are some Christians who say that works can get you into hell, that if you're a good person but you're an atheist, you still get to go to heaven. And there are some people that say that faith alone gets you to heaven. So like, where are you? Are you works or faith? Do you think that I will go to heaven even though I'm an atheist because I'm a good guy?
I think as long as you follow Jesus as best as you can, I don't care about denomination. I don't care if you think, oh, I'm sinning. I don't have to ask for, I'm going to do a sin because I know I can ask for forgiveness later. I don't care about that. I think as long as you, in your best, like it's never too late, as long as you act as similarly as you can to Jesus, no matter, it's never too late. I think that's all you really need to do. I don't think the Bible to read is necessary. I don't think going to church is necessary. So
do you believe that the Bible accurately depicts the nature and character and beliefs and ideas and desires of this God?
I think that the Bible, while I do take it at face value, I think it has deeper meaning behind some of the things it says. Don't literally think that, it's not like some things I don't literally think are literal. I think that there's some type of interpretation for different things, but at the end of the day, again, I don't think that matters as much as people make it out to be. I think follow Jesus, be as close as you can to him. Nobody can be like him. Be as close as you can to him, and you have a pretty good shot.
Okay. So here's my issue, is that you have a book that is not a good book in any sense of the word. Not in terms of like good writing and not in terms of good morality, which has two main characters, God and Jesus, neither one of which are moral people or moral things that should be followed or deserve to be followed. And the book, as by your own admission here, leaves a lot of stuff out, doesn't cover a lot of the natural world, gives you vague explanations for really important shit, and then directly contradicts reality as we see it. And this God, which is all-knowing and perfect and so amazing that it can create the entire universe and create, DNA and all these other things, chooses to create things that makes it look like he doesn't exist, chooses to publish a book which is riddled with horrible, immoral edicts and judgments and commandments, with a son who doesn't do anything to ameliorate the situation and perpetuates his misogyny, hatred, violence, doesn't try to correct any of it. And now here we are in 2024, 2,000 years removed from this stuff. Motherfucker's not showing up to do miracles. Motherfucker's not answering prayers. No, he's not around the way that he seems to have been back in the Bronze Age. And we are expected to totally sacrifice our critical thinking, sacrifice our morality, sacrifice our humanity in order to follow only the parts of this book which we can bend to sound halfway almost reasonable if you don't think about it too hard. And that's how we get to heaven. Does that sound like a good moral system to you? Or do you think that maybe I'm missing something?
The way you put that, no, that obviously doesn't sound like a good moral system. No, not at all. I do think
what did I say that was wrong?
What do you think? No, I don't think anything you said was necessarily wrong. I just want to ask you, what do you think about the part where I said, like, be as close to Jesus as you can?
That's an issue for me. Because, like, Jesus's whole thing was, no investment, no property, sell everything you own, only follow me. I come not to change the law, but to enforce it. So he upheld and believed in everything that the Old Testament God did, including all the slavery stuff. So Jesus was very clear about like, oh, you need to love, enemies and you need to make sure not to judge people. Never once took a second to say, don't own human beings as property, don't rape anybody, don't abuse children, none of those things, just follow me, with very vague meaning of what that actually entails. And then goes on to lead a life of apocalypse preaching and not much else. So like it's not to say that the character of Jesus is like this completely benign, meaningless guy. It's just to say that he isn't good enough, in my opinion, to be called a god. Even if I sit here and say he's not a bad dude, okay, I'm not a bad dude. Aaron's not a bad dude. There's plenty of not bad dudes in the world. I don't feel like any of them should be worshipped. And I think that anybody who demands to be worshipped isn't that good of a dude. So like, yeah, I just don't, I'm not, if you just read what Jesus himself said, there were some good things, there were some crappy things, and overall he's backing the God of the Old Testament who is pro-slavery and pro-genocide. I'm not into it. I'm not trying to follow that dude.
I think you've actually opened my eyes a little bit, if I'm being honest. I've never had, like, this is why I called. I've never had someone talk to me like I've never had someone to talk to about this.
That's fine.
So
I appreciate you taking the time.
This is really opening my eyes. No, thank you. This is shit. You're good at what you do. Damn. I think you fuck Emmanuel Diaz. Fuck Maybach. Shit.
I don't know who those people are, but fuck them too.
No, they're two people I know. Fuck them.
I think you should check out, like, there's I don't know, are you into books, or do you prefer audiobooks or anything like that?
Yeah, I mean, I'll listen to stuff.
Cool. So there's a really good book called God Is Not Great: How Religion Poisons Everything. And it's by an author called Christopher Hitchens. And I believe the full audiobook with the author himself reading the book aloud is free on YouTube. Christopher Hitchens was a really influential anti-theist. And he did exactly what I do, which is he didn't pull any punches, and he just said, if this God is real, it's a monster, and I want nothing to do with it. So you can go and listen to hours of my dumb ass up here talking about this stuff, or if you'd like, if you want something, so he really succinctly explains like the harm that religion causes in all of its forms, not just Christianity. I would recommend that. That was a great book. It was very meaningful to me when I was first kind of deconstructing my beliefs, and I think you might like it a lot.
All right,
if I could also throw a recommendation on there, mostly because I recently had the chance of meeting the director for the documentary film Satan's Guide to the Bible. It's got like over 1 million views on YouTube now. And I literally just came from a conference of the Society of Biblical Literature where they were talking about the documentary. And let's put it this way, the issues they had with the film was not its factual accuracy. If anything, it was just that a bunch of Bible scholars basically being put next to Satan explaining why the Bible is so bad, which made a few of them uncomfortable in the end. But when it comes to the issues of what's historically accurate or not accurate in the Bible, the nature of Jesus and his apocalyptic preachings and all those sorts of things, and presented in a way that I think is actually acceptable to a certain audience. And right now, Daniel, you sound like the kind of audience that would get a kick out of this documentary. And like I say, it's on YouTube, so it's the price of how long you're willing to sit.
Yep.
Oh,
and Daniel, overall,
what is the name of that again?
Satan's Guide to the Bible.
Guide to the Bible.
That's a fire name. I like that. That's actually cool.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm gonna look that up.
Yeah, Daniel, I think the last thing I would say to you for right now, and I hope you call us back and ask more questions, because you've done a great job asking great questions. I really appreciate you being so patient and understanding where we're coming from and like asking good follow-up questions. It's very clear that you're interested in learning more, and that's awesome. So what I would recommend you do is just take a minute today and just think about, if this God is real, what kind of God is it? It's clearly a God that condemns. Just the God of the Bible is clearly a God that is okay with slavery, and in fact tells people how to own slaves, both and has different rules for Hebrew slaves versus non-Hebrew slaves, how to buy slaves, where to buy slaves, how to beat slaves, like all of these different things. The God of the Bible is pro-genocide, tells Saul to go out and kill every man, woman, child, infant, the camels, the horses, the donkeys, completely eradicate entire civilizations. The God of the Bible is egotistical, arrogant, cruel, stupid, makes a bunch of really just fucking brainless mistakes where if he's all knowing, should have fucking known better. God regrets making humanity a couple of times in the Bible. That's why he sent the flood. It said God regrets making us. How does something that knows everything understand regret? What does that even make? What does that mean? Does that sound like love? Does that sound like intelligence? That doesn't make any sense. Just think over that. And if you start to peel away the layer of the Bible, then just take God as a vague concept. This is a world where 24,000 children a day 24,000 people a day, 10,000 of them children, starve to death every single day. Those are real numbers. You can check. 10,000 children and about 15,000 adults starve to death every 24 hours in this world. And God's watching. God's overseeing that. This is the world that God made. There is no excuse. There is no free will. There is no justification where you can pass this down the line and say, oh, it's somebody else's problem. If you're all powerful and you watch that shit, you're a monster. So I think you should spend the day, man, just like thinking about, if this God is real, what kind of God is it? And is it, even if it is real, is it worthy of your worship, of you as a moral person getting on your knees and saying, yes, daddy, thank you. I don't think that's reasonable. I think you're a better person than that. So think about that. And call us back sometime.
Got you. And again, thank you for everything. And I'm going to get shit from Maybach and Manny as soon as I get off the phone, probably. But thank you for opening my eyes.
Thank you for listening. Sincerely. I'm on the line tomorrow night as well. I'm hosting a show called Skeptalk. So if you want to call back tomorrow and talk to me specifically, you can do that, or call any of the other hosts and we'll all be happy to talk to you.
All right. Thank you so much.
Take care, Daniel. Bye-bye.
Later.
Emmanuel and Maybach. Get it together, y'all.
Honestly, when he first said that, I thought he said fuck Nickelback. And I could probably get behind that because I know that's the thing to do.
It is the meme. It is the meme. That's great. Goodness. While we were talking, we got a bunch of great callers. We got 4 new theist callers, all theists on the line here. And we're going to start with the inverse of the call that we just did. We've got Kyle, pronouns he, him, calling in from Itchy Legs. Kyle has called the show before and was deconstructing Christianity, went full-blown atheist, and then swung back in the other direction and went theist again, and is kind of like just changed his mind a bit. And so I'm excited to see where Kyle's at on his journey. Kyle, you're on the line with Forrest and Aaron. How you doing?
Hey, how's it going?
It's going really well, man. How are you today?
The other guy said he wants you to not mind him because he has a cold or something. I had just worked a 12-hour shift last night, and now I'm on hour 30 that I've been up. So just bear with me if you can.
Dude, I don't know how you do it. That's amazing. So it says here on the call screen, you disagree with the notion that there are thousands of gods. And I know you originally started as a Christian. I'm pretty sure you went back in that direction. So it sounds like you're going to argue for one God as opposed to thousands of them.
Well, I didn't know how to summarize it to the screener, so I'll kind of just try my best. Now you said the denomination that's like 40,000 different gods or flavors of God, or however you want it.
Yeah, 40,000 different denominations of Christianity alone. There's plenty of others. There's tens of thousands of other gods on offer, but just the Christian gods, there's 40,000 of them.
Right. Now, if we're just talking the 40,000 in Christianity alone, wouldn't you say that it's all just a different interpretation of the same God, rather?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. So when I say Christian gods, I'm talking about the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit, which are all individual entities, but also somehow the same entities. And at the very least, God versus Jesus are two distinct people who are also both somehow called God. None of that makes any logical sense to me. It doesn't work. They are, at the end of the day, different things. But that's what I'm talking about. So like when I talk about the 30,000 different types of Christianity, I'm mainly saying that like when people say, I know for sure Christianity is real, even then, which one? Which Christianity? Which interpretation of this God? Because many of them are incompatible with the other ones.
Right. Yeah, it's kind of confusing to me myself. Now, I just want to ask this. I have obviously called several times in the past, and then I go back and I read the comments and stuff, and people, like, I've read comments that, this isn't just a get lonely and call in, but every time I talk to you, you say keep calling and keep asking questions. So should I stop calling if it's just ask questions?
No. It's as long as you're being intellectually honest, as long as you're being honest with yourself and you're not just calling in to hear your own voice, and you're not, the problem that we have is that there's a lot of people out there that try to use the line the way that they should be using Google, where they come up with some random harebrained idea and then they call us to test it out. And then that idea gets destroyed. And then they go, okay, well, whatever, I'll call later. And then they just, nothing sticks, nothing absorbs in their head. Every time we have spoken, Kyle, have asked good questions and had a good discussion. And even when we left disagreeing, I feel like you or somebody in the audience is benefiting from it. So, I'm not going to make it a secret that my intention and my goal and my hope is that I can help you free yourself from the chains of religion. I don't want to try to force you in anything. I'm not trying to tell you who to talk to or why. You are welcome to call me, at least, as long as you'd like.
That's what's up. Now, I try to get my mom, because she's so close-minded about the whole thing. And obviously, she's been indoctrinated and it's all she knows. And I keep telling her, hey, you should really, keep an open mind. I don't agree that you should bash other religions, because none of us truly know if it's right or wrong. And I keep trying to get her to call in, and it's like she's scared, and she uses the scripture. I'm pretty sure it's out of context, but she says, I'm not calling them. I'm not going to cast my pearls to swine and stuff. And
Vipers,
like,
brood. That's a big one too.
Now, can I ask a question on her behalf?
Please. Yeah. And don't worry about it. Like, I don't want anybody to call in that doesn't want to call in. So, like, it's fine if she never does. It's cool. But yes, please ask us a question on her behalf.
Now, I had told her that your response is probably going to be, and what if you're wrong? And what if Islam is true? And what if the Quran is true? And what about that hell? Mm-hmm. But her question is, she genuinely wants to know, what if your guys' whole belief system, your everything is wrong, and Jesus Christ, it's all real, and she wants to know, what will you do if you're wrong in the end and you stand before the Trinity God and have to answer for it?
Yeah. I know what I want to say. Aaron, do you want to go first? Because I've been talking a lot, but I'm happy to go on.
Well, honestly, if God is real, exists, cares about us, has a place of paradise and all that, then if that is all real and I'm at the pearly gates, then there's basically two things. One, there's a lot to be explained. And two, I'm pretty sure a complete master of the universe is better than what 2,000 years ago people wrote down, because if God exists, it's better than anything we have imagined. And if it is literally just a thing that the people who wrote the Gospels said is actually real, that's a God I don't want to be participating with, because a God that says he's all good and then loves the idea of sending people into hell and loving to hear the wailing and gnashing of teeth, to quote from Matthew 13. It's like, no, that God is as bad, if not worse, than the Satan that I'm supposed to be running away from. So thanks, but no thanks. Like I say, though, conversely, if God exists, it's better than what the Christians actually say he's like.
Yeah, I would say very similar things. If this God is real, you're right. I would probably start up by saying I'm not afraid of any other hell either. But like, assuming that this God is real and that I were to go to heaven or to the pearly gates and be asked, why didn't you believe? I say the first thing is that this God has a hell of a lot to answer for. The suffering in this world is ultimately, inevitably, completely its fault. And especially if it is the God of the Bible as described by the Bible, then this is 110% his responsibility, his ability to change anything, and his decision to make things wrong and then punish them for being wrong. And that to me is sadistic. So that God has a lot to answer for, and that God will need to beg me for forgiveness before I consider going to its heaven. If this heaven is real and the people who say they're going to heaven are really going, I've met some of the people that say they're going to heaven. I've watched a lot of the people who say they're going to heaven. I know what kind of people are supposedly going to heaven. I don't want to fucking be there. And if those are the kind of people that are being rewarded, then if the Kent Hovens and the Billy Grahams and the Oral Robertses and the Donald Trumps and all these other people that claim to be going to heaven, if hucksters and fraudsters and charlatans and rapists and murderers and Jeffrey Dahmer gets to turn to Jesus on his deathbed and go to heaven, but some poor kid getting bombed to shit in the Middle East that was born believing the wrong God doesn't, I don't want to be there. And it's not a moral system to get in the first place. And even if it was a good thing, I would reject it because I don't want to participate in such an immoral system. And then finally, even if I were to go, even if I was somehow, the forced to be a part of this heaven, I was, you get to be in paradise. It's okay. You're such a good dude, Forrest, and you saved so many kittens and you did so many good things. You get to go to heaven. How in the hell could I or any good person enjoy it, knowing that there are so many people suffering down in hell below me, knowing that not even in hell, just on earth, if I were to die right now, knowing that my wife is here alone grieving, I could not be happy in heaven. Knowing that my friends are burning in hell, I could not be happy in heaven. Knowing that I'm, forced into, if heaven is what the Bible describes, this lobotomized eternity of just subservient adulation to this fucking monster, I could not be happy. I would need to be forced to be happy. And that sounds right up the alley of this God who regularly tinkers with free will and takes away people's autonomy and individuality and forces them to be a monstrous shadow reflection of themselves. So that's where I'm at, man. If I had to go to heaven, this God needs to beg me for forgiveness, and then I still wouldn't want to be a part of their fucking evil theme park.
All right, well, I know that my mom would say, woe to you, but I have questions since you brought up Jeffrey Dahmer.
Yeah.
I have a friend, and I think he subscribes to like the Freemason or of some sort. So I mean, you could call that cult or whatever. And he'll get drunk, and I'll go over there, hang out. We'll just go back and forth with ideas and thoughts. And Jeffrey Dahmer came on topic, and he said that the age-old question is that Jeffrey Dahmer loved to kill people. He loved to eat people. He loved it. He loved it. He loved it. How wrong really was he? And then to add to that, would you agree that that you would be lying to say that you don't at least hold the possibility to do things like Jeffrey Dahmer?
No, I don't. So there's a very common.
At least that it's possible that you could, if you enjoyed what Jeffrey Dahmer enjoyed, you do possess the ability to do those things.
Oh no! Even if I don't enjoy it, I of course possess the ability. I
right.
Just like anybody, I possess the ability to rape and murder and cannibalize and do all sorts of things. And here's the thing, man, is that I do murder and rape and cannibalize exactly as many people as I want to, which is none. I do it exactly as much as I want. Every day I murder as many people as I want to murder. It just so happens that it's fucking none of them. And so like when you have somebody who's, evil, Hitler was a Christian. Hitler died a Christian. He was a practicing active member of the church. Is he in heaven because he accepted Jesus as his savior? It's, Jeffrey Dahmer died on his being a Christian and confessing and asking forgiveness. Is he in heaven? These people, are you going to call these people your brothers in Christ and love and embrace them and all because they're of the same faith, which seems to be what the Bible tells you to do? Or do you believe in some sort of morality that's beyond that? And even so, even if there was some sort of punishment afterwards, well, the only punishment on offer is eternal punishment, which is also immoral, because an eternal punishment for a finite crime is awful. It's immoral. There should be a set punishment for the crime, and then the punishment ends. And that's only if this God has the fucking right to punish us. If this God offered punishment to me, I'd say, who the fuck are you? Why do you get to judge me when your sins, when this God's sins far outweigh my own? Who is this God to judge and pass punishment on me? Nobody. So, like, yeah, there's a lot to be said there. And as far as the woe to you type thing, yeah, dude, I can quote scripture too. It doesn't make it right. And it means as much for your mom to say to me, well, you know, the fool says in his heart that there is a God. Okay, the fool says in their heart that there is a God. It means nothing. It means nothing. Either this thing is real or it isn't. And if you have a good reason to believe it, I want to hear it. But if you don't,
Right.
then you're going to need to justify it, especially considering and I know you and I have talked about this before. I'm not telling you anything you don't know. The baggage, man, the fucking horrible, immoral baggage that this God comes with. You're talking about the God from the pro-slavery, pro-child sex, genocide. This is the God. This is the guy. This is the smartest thing in the universe, really? And you're going to believe on this without good evidence because woe to you who don't? Fuck off. It's not worth it.
Now, let me ask you this though: what if I'm not saying you are, Forrest, but what if you are reading it wrong? Like, like you're reading it literally. What if there really is a right interpretation to reading the verses?
Then what a dickhead your God is.
That's why I said that if there is the Almighty out there and he actually is all good, then he is not the same as we would read from these books. That ultimately, whatever version of Christianity exists in our times, in our fleshy existence, it is paling compared to what the real version is, because there is so much horrible stuff that you can find in that text that you would not expect if it is sourced from the ultimate source of goodness. So, like I say, if God exists and is all good, it is different than anything we humans have imagined. It's better than what we have imagined. So I don't get hung up on what one angry person wrote in a text 19 centuries ago, because they don't tell me metaphysical truths. They tell me what they were angry about. When I read Revelation, I see some guy who got who knows what substance into his body and just writing these fever dreams about how he is just so angry at all of his religious and political enemies. And honestly, guy doesn't like Rome. Fine. How does that tell me how the universe actually operates? I don't think those are connected. And so I say, to hell with the book. And if heaven exists, it's better than what the Christians actually tell me it's like.
Yeah, that's the big thing to me, is like, if this God is really all-knowing and all perfect and all kind and all loving, and hell awaits if we do not know him properly and we do not worship him properly. And then the only source of information that we have on him, this book, is difficult to interpret. Why would you ever do it? If I run my companies, like I do my own work for YouTube stuff. I have the charity stuff that I do. If I put out a memo to everybody that works with me and it's really fucking vague and shitty, and I'm like, job someday 11, and they're like, what the fuck is this? And they don't know. And then I show up and I'm like, why did no one come to the meeting at 11 a.m. on Tuesday, the 11th, on the whatever? I was very clear. Fuck all of you. You're all fired. Like, I'm a terrible boss. And here's this God that's like, yo, you have to believe in me and you have to do it right. And you have to understand exactly these natures of different parts of the universe. And you have to not eat these foods and not have sex with these people. And only when you do have sex, do it in these ways. And like, and wear these clothes and cut your beard in certain way, and all these other weird ass rules that don't make any damn sense. And also slavery's okay, I guess, whatever, And then 2,000 years later, There's 50 different interpretations of this book, 100 different translations of this book, 1 million different versions of this book. And we're all just lost trying to figure out where the hell this God is and if this God is and how to do it right. And this dude just sitting there, they're like, I couldn't have been more clear. I sacrificed a man in Palestine 2,000 years ago, and I don't know what else to do. I can't be any more clear. Like, bitch, send a text message. What is this? You know what I mean? Like, I don't get it. I think that again just falls back on this God. The responsibility always inevitably falls back on the guy who claims to be able to shape the nature and the fabric of the entire fucking universe. And you can't send an email? Come on. Like that's for me. It's just not good enough.
I got you.
Yeah, man.
I don't know.
Anyway, Aaron, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I don't know. I don't know. I really don't.
It's, man, I've told you this before, and so you're not hearing anything new from me, Kyle, but like the questions that you ask and the seriousness that with which you broach these topics in your first calls and the way that you laughed at it and you're like, damn, that's real. You know, we're talking about the same stuff. I think that you are a kinder and more moral person than the God that you believe in. And I think that the reason you continue to believe in it is because it's easy. And it's because it's something that you're worried about not doing. Because I don't think you have a lot of context for that. And I just, man, I know how patronizing this sounds, and I'm sorry, but I'm not going to change what I'm saying. I don't mean it to be patronizing, but there's no way to make it not sound patronizing. I fucking hope that you like value yourself enough to fucking just get rid of this shit, dude, and just be happy on your own. I think you're better off without it. But you got to do you, man.
Bro,
and I'm here for you, whatever you choose.
Bro, Forrest, I've tried what feels like everything, and literally, whether you want to call it religion, Christianity, Jesus, it literally just worked for me. So why would I give up the only thing that's worked this far? Why?
Does it work for you? How does it work?
It does.
It leaves you. From everything I'm seeing, it leaves you with a bunch of questions that are unanswerable. It leaves you with a bunch of things that are unquestionable in the first place. It doesn't answer any serious major questions about where we come from or where we're going or what meaning of life is or anything like that in a way that you can actually test or defend. It's just something that feels good because you're a white dude in America that gets the nicest version of this religion, not the one that's pushed upon everybody else as being colonized. It's you don't get to deal with the purity culture of it. You don't get to deal with being told that you're a whore and a slut because you wore a spaghetti strap at 13. You don't get to deal with being chastised for being homosexual. You don't get to deal with the threat of hell because you're trans. You get the love and the shiny and the pretty and the sweet. And there's some guy out there that really loves you. He really does. All you have to do is not think about it too hard. And meanwhile, you're robbed of your education and your own integrity. What do you mean it works for you, man?
What's the scripture that you use about the jot or tittle? What is that?
Let me check. I don't know it off the top of my head.
That's Matthew 5.
You don't have to look it up. But as a response, what is your thoughts on what if Galatians 5:14? If you can look that up real quick, what if that really is what it boils down to? That's all it is.
Galatians what?
Galatians 5:14.
Galatians 5:14. The entire law is fulfilled in keeping this one command: love your neighbor as yourself. If that is the law of this God, that's swell. I wish he would do the same. Because right now, this God doesn't love us, its neighbors. It doesn't take care of us. It leaves thousands of us to starve and die and suffer. It allows for countless atrocities to be carried out in its name. That's not love. And I would be so fine if somebody just said, I just want you to love each other. That's all I want. Hell yeah. Me too. You don't need a God to tell you to do that. And you don't need the threat of hell or the promise of heaven to have to do that. And if you do, if you are only loving each other because you are worried about hell or heaven, then you're not a good person. You're a bad person on a leash. And that is what this religion perpetuates, is low-level moral development and high-level control.
Now you asked, I heard what you said. I forget so easily. I didn't mean to cut you off. You said,
no, you're fine. I do the same shit.
You said, how is it really working in your favor though? Or you said something like that. Now my question is, before I started calling you guys, I was living the quote unquote born again lifestyle. And it's like people that knew me before I jumped on the whole rabbit hole of religion itself, or just whatever you want to call it. It's like people just without knowing what God, what faith, what did it, what this, what that, they noticed a drastic change in the person that I had become, and then it's like after I had started asking questions. I ain't blaming you guys, but you guys are the ones I talk to, and it's like, and it's like everybody noticed a drastic change in a negative sense, and it's just like, what do you call like what Christianity would call born again? People can automatically tell a drastic, like a positive change in a person without knowing what faith, what belief, what role was played that got you there. What would you call, like some people would say, I see like an aura around you, or I've heard multiple things. But what would you call that thing that these people are claiming to see on you? You know what I mean?
What are you calling about? And like what drastic change do you mean specifically? You said that they noticed a negative change in you. What is the negative change they noticed specifically?
Well, just trying to literally murder and annihilate people's like hope and meaning and
you were trying to murder people's hope?
I mean, essentially, yeah.
Were you really, or were you just asking questions that made them uncomfortable?
Well, I was like hammering them with like, how do you know that ain't a delusion? How do you know you're not just so deluded? How do you know? How do you know? How do you know? How do you know? Prove it. Prove it. Prove it. Prove it. Prove it. Bullshit. Bullshit.
So, Kyle, it sounds like you entered into the angry atheist phase. When a lot of people deconstruct their religion, they become the stereotypical angry atheist, where they do exactly that, and they want to bring everybody else along with them, and they get frustrated by seeing people that they care about in their lives believing something that they don't believe anymore, and then those people in the exact same equal and opposite reaction are frustrated and upset that you don't believe something that they believe. They love you, and they're worried for your soul, and they're worried for your eternity, and they're worried for your mental health, and they think they have it figured out, and they see you doing something that they don't understand. And you are asking good questions and maybe being a little bit annoying to them, which, no shade, we've all fucking been there, dude. I was there for a long time. Arguably, I still am. That's my job. And so, like, you are going through this new phase of learning and asking people good questions. And they, because they love you and because they have been abused, are now demanding you change because this is a negative thing for them. You're making them uncomfortable by asking questions that they're not asking themselves and challenging the beliefs that they didn't ask to be challenged and weren't ready to challenge in the way that you were challenging. And now you are back in the religion, and everybody can tell you there's such a positive change. And what they mean by that is that you shut up and you're back into the fold. You're back into the herd. You're back into the rhythm that they are comfortable with, and they interpret that as happiness. So you ask what the positive change is. It's lobotomization, man. That's the positive change.
Well, hey, but honestly, there is no like after I quote unquote try to deconvert, it's like now that I'm choosing to believe in this, nobody wants anything to do because, I'm choosing and I'm not genuine. And it's just, I was just talking about when I first, at the beginning.
That's why we always say there's no hate quite like Christian love. It's man, I'm sorry. I mean that sincerely. I really am fucking sorry that these people are treating you that way. And it just kind of shows the herd mentality, cult behavior that these religions bring about. If there was really one genuinely good, take it outside of religion, a really good political philosophy, and someone started challenging it and questioning it, we would all celebrate. Because best case scenario, you teach us something new. Worst case scenario, you figure out it's wrong and you come back to where you're at. Same thing with science, same thing with economics, same thing with literally everything. But in religion, you have to be right. Otherwise, it's performative. Otherwise, you're evil. Otherwise, you're this and that and the other. If you ask me, my answer would be fuck them. You don't need them if they're going to treat you that way. But I understand how difficult that can be if these are friends, family members, people in a close, especially a small community. I can understand how hard that is. And that's a really, really big stumbling block and a big barrier for a lot of new atheists. And I hope that you find a way around that, man. But don't fall into the trap of the logical fallacy of saying there was an adverse consequence in my community. Therefore, I have to change my mind and believe in this fucking monster in the sky. Like that's the effect that the belief has on your life doesn't change whether or not the belief is true. And even if Christianity makes you feel pretty, or it makes you feel, even if Christianity makes you feel good, and Christianity makes your friends feel good, and Christianity makes your family feel good, that doesn't mean it is or isn't true. If it's true, it's true. And if it's true, you should be able to find out why it's true.
Yeah, but Forrest, if I'm on a truth search in life, and I actually believe the claims that I believe, Jesus specifically, then what good does it do to lie to myself and then have to, throw away the I know personal experience doesn't count, or I literally would have to lie like I did. Like you convinced me that what I was believing is a lie, and then I had to stop. I'm like, well, I automatically want to believe whatever I hear somebody say, gullibility, whatever. But man, what about the people? Wouldn't you agree that there is a large number of people that can't even follow their own morality? They have to have like a set in stone something to follow in life. Because I know I don't lack the knowledge to always ask questions and to always to absorb all this information, man.
I think, man, I'll be honest with you. I think
hard, bro.
That
it's fucking hard, man.
It is. No, here's the thing, man. Here's where I'm at. Because like even that last thing you said was a lot. There was a lot there. And it sounded like that was that sounded like it came from somewhere deep. That was a lot of different things that were all kind of conflated together. And so like here's what I want you to just think about for today. Is that what religion offers, especially Christianity, what it offers is easy answers for complex questions. Morality is solved. Do what God tells you to do. The universe, the nature of the universe, the mysteries of the universe are solved. God did it because God did it. These are easy answers for really difficult, not easy questions. Reality is much scarier than that. Atheism is much scarier than that. You now have to do the hard work, and it is hard work, to figure out what you think about everything, about physics, about math, about biology, about morality, about philosophy, about whether or not life has a meaning, and if it does, what does that meaning mean, and what do you do about it? And it is fucking scary. But you don't have to do it all at once, and you certainly don't have to do it alone. And more importantly, you don't even have to do it all. I'm not telling you, and I would never tell anyone to just not think about something. But like, you don't have to sit here and rebuild your entire fucking morality, worldview, consciousness, everything from scratch at the drop of a hat in order to be an atheist. You just have to admit that you have no good reason to believe in this God. And if you want to be an anti-theist, then say, all right, even if this God is real, I don't want it to do it either. And then you can start that job and say, all right, so if God isn't real and if I'm alone in all this, then how do I be a good person? And yeah, there's a lot of people out there that would really struggle with that. And there are a lot of people out there that need some guidance in those ways. But the guidance that the Bible gives you is it's right or wrong because God said so. Not it's right or wrong because it hurts people. Not it's right or wrong because it affects societies. Not it's right or wrong because XYZ biomedical thing or whatever. It's just, I told you to. And that's not moral. That's just being a child forever. And that sounds like shit. So I think that you should respect yourself and respect everyone else enough to say, I give you the credit that you are able to do this on your own. I don't think you're a baby. I don't think you need to be bossed around. I think you're smart enough to do what you need to do to live the life that's best for you and hopefully good for other people too.
All right, but what about, like you said religion is hateful, but it's like obviously, you know, I have feelings and emotions and all this, and it's like whenever I'm quote unquote deconverting and trying to leave religion, everybody in the chat is like, yay, congrats. But then anytime I say something for why I believe, it's all hateful. Oh, you're fucking delusion retard, and it sounds like you don't fucking this, that, the other. It's like people in the chat are hateful as fuck if you're not in line with what they believe, and it's just like you can't get away from it one way or the other. And I know it's not you.
Welcome to the world.
I mean, you're saying how you feel about it, but it's like those people in that chat. If you're not agreeing on the call, they get hateful and they say some of the most hateful things about people when. Really, all these people are doing is trying to explain why they believe what they believe. You can call that sophistry, you can call it a fallacy. I really don't care, but it's like that's just what I've gotten.
It is a fallacy. You're saying that these people are being mean, and therefore you don't want to be a part of them. Don't be a part of them. Don't be a part of a chat. Don't be on the channel community. Don't worry about it. If they treat you badly, don't be a part of it. Find a different way to believe what you believe. There's plenty of atheists that don't like our channel, that don't like what we do, that don't like what we say, that don't like the community that we've built. There's plenty of people that are in our chat. Yeah, absolutely. And there are plenty of people in the chat that I disagree with too. There are plenty of times where I've had to call out other atheists for calling religion a mental disorder and shit like that. I think that's fucking stupid. I think it's an awful thing to say for so many reasons. So just people are gonna be dicks. I doubt very seriously that anybody in our chat would be throwing around the R slur, but whatever. The point is that we don't let other people being a certain way dictate what you decide to believe is or isn't true. And if you are going to do that, then I encourage you to listen to how lots and lots and lots of Christians talk about gay people, trans people, women, people of color. Like I promise you that there's not a lot of room up on the high horse that you're building there. So with that, I probably shouldn't have got so personal with what I said about the chat. It's fine.
But man, it's like you're gonna be disliked no matter what side you're on, and
that's true.
At this point, man, I'm not here for argument. I honestly, I don't know you, Forrest. I don't know you, Aaron, but I care about you guys. I feel like that's just a moral thing that is written on the heart, if you will. And I'm not here to change your minds. And I don't have anybody else to ask questions out of my bubble.
We care about you too, Kyle.
Man, I probably won't call anymore. I'm just gonna have to, like you said, not believe everything I hear and just figure it out for myself. And I appreciate the role you have played in this little journey I've been on, and I just appreciate you.
I hope that your journey isn't over, and I hope that you do call us back sometime. and just ask more questions. As long as you're being honest about your questions and you're not just asking shit just to ask shit, like, yeah, I have no problem with that. And I honestly, I think even just there, you've broken more ground. Don't let the way people treat you dictate what you believe. So man, I think that you would be probably comforted to know just how many Christians have gone through the exact same journey as you and had the exact same feelings as you and dealt with the exact same back and forth pull and probably felt foolish in one direction and then foolish in another direction and then not knowing what to believe and stuck with comfort or whatever like that. I think that you would be very comforted to know just how many people have been there as well. And I encourage you to check out Recovering from Religion and talk to their counselors, even if you don't want to change your mind, to just talk about those feelings and talk about why you feel the way you do and how many people have also been there and can sympathize and can appreciate. And I promise none of those people will call you any kind of slur for whatever you're saying. And if any of our chat, if any of our community starts throwing on slurs at you, you tell them that I told you to. You tell them that I told them to fuck off.
Thank you. Honestly, the main reason that got me to start calling is everyone, taught me not to question things, and everyone acts fearful to talk to an atheist, and I'm just not that guy that is afraid to hear different sides of everything, and so that is the main reason why I call frequently, just because I'm not afraid to hear differences. I'm not afraid to talk to you guys.
Yeah, and I love that. I love that about you, man. I care about you.
More moral. You guys are more moral than half the Christians I know. So, I don't know you. I don't know what you do on the other side of the camera, but
I beat puppies with kittens. Kyle, I've actually, we've got a few other calls, so I'm going to move on. Unless, Aaron, do you have anything else at the end?
I just want to give one last piece of advice. Kyle, you're clearly on a journey, and the best thing you can do for yourself is be true to yourself. Do not sacrifice your intellect for the sake of others. I know that can be, and many times, scary. And ultimately, though, you want to be able to look yourself in the mirror and bravely say and think the thoughts that you actually have, rather than force anyone else's thoughts into your head just for the sake of sitting in. And I think you will be happier for doing that, even as you have to struggle for now. And I hope only the best for you.
Most definitely.
I appreciate you guys.
I care about you. I love you, man. I want you to be well, no matter what you end up believing. I wish all the best for you.
Love you, bro. Hey, take care, guys.
Later, man. Bye-bye. Kyle's nice as fuck. And I just really want, like, he's called in a ton of times, and it is always just like, I can tell how much he's struggling. And I really appreciate his honesty through all of it. Even when, we're all disappointed. Oh, fuck, he went back to Christianity. But he's fucking honest about it. And I really, really like that. So I wish we had more callers like Kyle. We've got a ton of other lines are still fucking full, which I'm not going to complain about, but like we have an hour left. Yes, we have an hour left and we've got a bunch of calls left, and I want to try to get through as much as we can. So I think we're probably going to cap calls, and we're just going to take these last 4. Is that cool with you?
Fire away.
Okay, sick. So we're going to put a cap on calls, and we've got 4 calls left. I want to start with this one. I think this is mainly for you because it's about dark energy and some cool stuff. All
right. So
we've got Steve, pronouns he, him, calling in from Nice Egrets. Real nice. Says is a theist who says recent studies suggesting dark energies weakening over time imply dynamic natural law programmed by a computational universe. What the fuck does any of that mean? Steve, you're online with Forrest and Aaron. How are you doing today?
Yeah, happy holidays. Firstly, I want Aaron to know our previous call dropped a bit prematurely due to technical difficulties. I never actually would abruptly disconnect with the line's most well-mannered scholar. So happy holidays to you, Aaron, and your family.
Well-mannered. I don't know who you're talking to. That's not me.
How dare you?
Okay, then I'm talking to Forrest. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So
anyway, I'm gonna turn off. I'm just gonna let Aaron figure this out.
Okay. So, Aaron, what I was calling to discuss is recent studies suggesting dark energy is weakening over time. As you mentioned, what I wrote in the screening was that dark energy is weakening over time, implying dynamic natural law programmed by computational universe. And this would be in contrast with a natural constant occurring within a base reality. So are you familiar with a research study titled DESI 2024 VI Cosmological Constraint from the Measurements of Baryon Acoustic Oscillations?
I am aware of the DESI study and that they have, depending on which data sets or combinations of data sets they have, varying levels of confidence that the intensity, integrity, trying to think what the most precise term is, but yeah, that the density of dark energy in a given cube of space is actually not constant over time, that it seems to have some level of dynamics. And that seems to be at least the evidence they have, and I haven't seen any reports as of yet pushing back in its interpretations being false, though it's not as strong yet as we would need to be to say we're really confident. It's good evidence, but it's not like, oh yeah, this is definitive evidence. But let's take what you're saying though and say that dark energy is fluctuating, it's changing over time. And it's totally consistent with the evidence, and we don't know why. We don't know. Yeah, I mean, the thing is, we don't even know what dark energy is. So in some ways, we perhaps should not be surprised that we keep learning more about it.
Right, but we know the effects of it. We know how it's expanding the universe, how it's counteracting to gravity, correct?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Would you agree with that? Okay, cool. So this research details how dark energy, how the dark energy spectroscopic instrument observed redshifts, that is distant galaxy light and quasar light, stretched by spatial expansion. Mm-hmm. And this was precisely measured by using baryon acoustic oscillation sound rings, which are density fluctuations in the early universe, where sound waves rippled through primordial plasma, leaving a visual imprint on the distribution of galaxies today, acting as a standard ruler for measuring the universe's expansion. And DESI's initial results found dark energy pressure per its energy density consistent with the cosmological constant cold dark matter model. However, as you mentioned, when combining DESI's observational data with cosmic microwave background survey and supernovae surveys, dark energy pressure per its energy density is above -1, suggesting dark energy is weakening over time. So if this natural force, i.e. dark energy, is being tweaked by a cosmic programmer, then it's testable if the mass energy information equivalence principle is correct. Would you agree?
Well, here's the thing. I don't understand the connection between the density of dark energy is changing, therefore it's being programmed, let alone by an outside source. It's just that whatever is the cause of dark energy, it has a value that changes over time, or has some other dynamic relationship, perhaps with matter. In fact, I think there's even been some studies trying to at least say, hey, there's this interesting correlation between like the number or mass of black holes and the strength of dark matter, dark energy. I'm forgetting the details, but it seems like there's a more dynamic relationship. I don't know why that says it's programmed by an outside source or it's breaking any other physical laws. Nothing like that is consistent with just saying dark energy is changing over time.
So you think natural law can just change? You think that could happen without a computational universe? You think that
but
law?
Dark energy is not a natural law. It's not
I wouldn't expect that. I would not expect
Well, I'm
that
saying,
in
but
a
the thing
base
is, though, the
reality.
amount of dark energy is not some mathematical law of the universe. It's not like we're saying F equals ma, except when it's not. We're saying this quantity that we're measuring seems to change over time. And that's not the same thing as we're saying the laws of physics are changing. It's saying whatever is the cause of dark energy, it is more dynamic than the most straightforward model suggested. And
Okay. Are you
we don't
familiar
even know
with
what
the
dark
mass
energy is,
energy?
so the seeing it
Okay.
change can't really tell us that like our physics is somehow completely bonkers and changing. It just means we don't fully understand. Actually, we really don't understand at all what drives dark energy.
Okay. Are you familiar with the mass energy information equivalence principle?
I think I remember this coming up on an earlier talk, and it
Yeah, we
is
talked about this before. So we mentioned how this can be tested if they're interactive, stable, fundamental particles of mass containing bits of code simulating the particle's charge, mass, and spin. And if one bit of info were erased from an encoded particle, there'd be equivalent amount of dissipated heat as observed when one bit's erased from a computer. Particles having info storage capacity or electrons upwards, downwards, binary base impulses can pre-equal probability outcomes. Contains 1.585 bits when adjusting for actual percentage of upwards, downwards electrons. Each of these encoded particles contain roughly 1.585 bits of info, which if destroyed by colliding an electron with a positron should yield 2 low energy infrared photons along with 2 gamma rays as predicted by the mass energy information equivalence principle. So why haven't the physicists done this test? What's going on? Why aren't they putting the simulation to the test? What's going on?
So there's a few things there. So one is that if there is this equivalence, and it's not like as well demonstrated as like the equivalence between energy and matter, and also when we're talking about information, there's also usually multiple definitions of information that could be played in here. So it's always a little bit confusing when information comes in. But even so, if I remember the paper in particular, the energy of those infrared photons is so absurdly low that the detectors wouldn't even be able to pick that up across other background stuff. Because here's the thing, I'm giving off infrared radiation right now. Quite a bit of it, honestly, because you can actually go and buy a camera and see me in infrared. So to build an apparatus to even possibly detect these photons that are there and make sure there's no other background sources for it is what we would call really freaking hard. Conversely, the energy that would be explained by that is going to be probably nowhere near to explain what we're seeing with a fluctuation in dark energy, because we're talking about something at huge cosmic scales. And if memory serves from the relationship between information and that mass, that like a bit of information has such an absurdly tiny energy or mass amount that you're not talking about like losing 10% of your information and losing 10% of your mass. It's like lose 10% of the information and the mass change is virtually undetectable. So for it to have like cosmically measurable amounts is initially unlikely. But without doing explicit calculations, I can't tell you anything confidently.
Okay. Yeah, I think that's probably correct, because I think it would be something like 10 to the negative 25th that amount of I guess when you compare the energy of a low energy infrared photon to a gamma ray, we're talking on the orders of a few million times, aren't we? If you compare how much energy the gamma rays
I don't know the numbers, but if you're saying it's like 1 million, if those photons are 1 millionth of photons we normally see from electron-positron pair annihilation, then yeah, we are talking about levels of energy so tiny we may not even have the technology for that. Because so electron photons in that sort of collision is going to be about 511 keV. We're talking a millionth of that, so we are talking a fraction of an electron volt. And oh goodness, I mean, it's several electron volts just for the transition of electrons going up and down the hydrogen atom. So if we're going fractions of that, it would actually be hard to build technology to detect that, because it's not even enough energy to actually even have like electron transitions in atoms. So you would have to have like some amazingly built tool to even potentially detect a photon of that energy. Again, assuming the numbers you're giving me are in the ballpark. So yeah, it's called freaking hard to do.
Yeah, okay, but so why does physicist Dr. Melvin Botson thinks this test can be done? Why was he running a crowdfunding campaign to get this test done? Is he a scammer? What's going on?
I don't. So it's hard to tell because one, I don't know enough of the details, and two, it can all with things like this, it can be hard to tell the difference between a scammer and someone who's just doesn't know what they're talking about, or they really do know and they just don't know how to convince funding agencies to get the money for this. Like I say, I would have to know a lot more details before passing any sort of moral judgment on someone.
Okay, so is he just using me as clickbait for sensationalist headlines? Is he trying to scam money? I just want to know more about what's going on here.
Yeah, like I say, I don't know the details enough to even claim anything like that. There is one thing, though, that I do remember from the paper that kind of struck me as weird as someone would do to try to prove their case, saying that he tried using the COVID virus as evidence for his thesis by saying every time there's a mutation, there's an information increase in the genome of the COVID virus. And he provides this graph and showing a fairly linear relationship between the two. But the thing is, you don't need to go and do a test for that. That is like a duh thing. Every mutation adds information. This is something that has been known since like the 1930s. So the fact he was doing that and saying, hey, we can do this experiment with the COVID virus showing there's this relationship, it's like, dude, we've known this because we know how information is stored in a digital kind of way for nearly a century. So things like that make me think, like, does he know all this information and he's missing some details, and that's why he's not able to get funding, because other people looking at his grant proposals more in depth realize, oh, here's why this is absurd. Again, I don't know enough, and I'm really reluctant to say someone is scamming without actually digging into the details. I'm not doing the equivalent of CoffeeZilla looking at all these wallets of people doing crypto scams like he does. I do not know enough. I have not dove into it, and I'm probably not going to get started since it's
okay.
Well, you've been really helpful. I got too many other things to do.
Hey, I appreciate your time, and I want you to have a happy holiday. Thanks, you're really informative, and I appreciate you. So I enjoy listening to you. You have a happy holiday. Thank you.
Thank you, Steve.
Bye. Well, that was fun. We've got 3 callers left. Let's bounce it over to the other science. We've got, I swear to flip, dude, this is what it says. Powder Emperor. I don't know if that's a joke or a thing or a bit or a screen name. I have no context for any of this. Pronouns he, him, calling in from the US of A, who says evolution is quackery. Let's talk to you. Do I call you Powder or Emperor, or do you have a different name? You go either way. You're on the line with Forrest and Aaron.
Yeah, either way is fine.
Right,
no
cool.
problem. Either way is fine. You know, happy Sabbath. How are you guys doing today?
Is it Sabbath? I thought it was Sunday.
It is the Sabbath.
No, there's a snow cone shop. Yeah, I was gonna say there's a snow cone shop in my hometown that celebrates the Sabbath, and it's always Saturday.
Yeah, that's the certain small hat community.
They're doing the wrong thing because they are interpreting the exact same book in a different way.
No.
So
no,
I'm curious to know.
They're just interpreting history incorrectly, like many people.
Yeah, exactly. Everybody needs to know it exactly the way that you do it.
No,
so
you just have to have a logical progression. Well, logical deduction and progression. Not hard.
Weird start, but like we'll just jump into the meat of it to see what's going on. You say evolution is quackery. What do you mean specifically? Do you have a particular thing you don't like about it, or is it all of it? Like, what are you coming from?
Well, it's just an impossibility, and it's like talking to a cult member if you think you're talking to someone. I mean, do we get into the actual mathematics of it? Do we get into the biology of it? Where would you like to begin?
I'm happy to get into the biology of it.
Evolution?
That was going to be my first question. Yes.
What is evolution?
Well, yeah, first evolution. Okay, well, there is no connection between Precambrian and Postcambrian life forms, correct?
No, back it up.
That's not what we asked.
What is evolution?
It's incremental. It's the theory that incremental small changes lead to new organisms over time. Random small incremental changes.
I mean, I'd take that. That's not the definition, but it's good enough to understand what we're talking about. We can work with that.
Yeah, random small mutation of codons trying to create amino acids, correct?
Not necessarily. So there's different things. What you're talking about there is so the actual definition of evolution is any change in the heritable characteristics of a population over the course of multiple generations. And the reason why it's important to make that distinction is because
that's not the definition that Darwin used, though. That's this new whatever. New age evolution.
Right. So just to be clear, two things.
Was not talking about codons. So I don't know.
Yeah, I was going to say two things.
Random evolution changes of an organism which lead to a new organism. That's what he spoke of.
So what you need to understand is that Darwin was just the first guy to publish a major text about evolution. Evolution was already an idea that was way, way, way before Darwin. And since Darwin, we've had about 200 years of development on the idea about evolution. So it's not exactly like Darwin said this and therefore we go forward with it. Also, Darwin didn't ever say anything about codons or DNA because he didn't know those things existed. And so, he didn't know about genetics in general. He didn't know about heredity because Mendel was publishing his Mendel, I'm going to finish this sentence if it kills you. Mendel was publishing his work on heredity at the same time as Darwin, and Darwin never read Mendel's papers.
Mendel was a Catholic.
Yes, that does.
Yeah,
and tell me exactly how that matters.
Someone who directly contradicts what you're trying to presuppose. Now,
not at all.
If we want to get
Newton
into it,
was also, hold on there, wait a second. Newton was also a Christian, and so Newton was a Christian. He was very clearly Christian and referenced it several times. Also, most of the stars in the night sky are based on have Arabic names because Muslims were the ones who invented algebra, who invented algorithms, who did a lot of astronomy. So the religion of a person who makes a discovery doesn't really influence whether or not the discovery is true or not.
No, but the idea of deductive logic.
So Mendel being a Catholic, you're gonna have to stop interrupting.
I know you're gonna postulate.
I'm gonna put you on mute because you cannot stop interrupting. Mendel being a Catholic doesn't change anything, and it doesn't mean anything for this conversation. Him directly contradicting Darwin by his Catholicism doesn't mean anything because Darwin wasn't expressly anti-Catholic either at any particular point that I know of. And even if they were, that would be a different conversation entirely. The point is, Mendel was publishing his work on heredity at the same time that Darwin was publishing his work on natural selection. They didn't know about each other. Then that's fine. The fact is that now we've blended these ideas to develop a new idea called neo-Darwinism because Darwin got some stuff right and he got some stuff wrong. He was a guy 200 years ago, just like every other scientist. There's some stuff right and there's some stuff wrong. So with Darwin's ideas and Mendel's ideas combined, we have neo-Darwinian evolution, which is the mutation selection hypothesis that you seem to be oversimplifying by saying random changes to codons making new organisms. That's not exactly what it is, but mutating DNA and then producing a new slight variation on a species and then that experiencing selection pressures in its environment and eventually over a long time producing a new species entirely. That's neo-Darwinian evolution. That is one dimension of evolution. There's a lot more to evolution than that. There are other mechanisms that come into play here. So again, that's why it's so important for us to define what we mean by evolution. And that's why the definition that I gave you is not just some new age workaround. That's what it is. It is any change in the heritable characteristics of a population over the course of multiple generations. And that includes DNA. It includes epigenetics. It includes developmental pathways. It includes gene regulatory networks. It includes microbiomes. There's a ton that goes into that. So now we will bring you back. Just out of curiosity, is this imperious? It sounds like it's imperious.
That was a long-winded amount of norepinephrine mania. That's insane.
No, that was just science.
Masturbatory right there if I've ever heard it. That's a lot of coke.
I just gave you the definition of a word because you refused to accept the definition.
No, sir, that's called norepinephrine. Sir, you just rambled from your mania.
You're trying to say norepinephrine?
Because you want to pontificate like a religious person, but you say you're not religious. You don't sit here like an
I put you on mute.
You sit and try to mute people because you're scared.
On mute.
Yeah,
I put you on mute because you could not stop interrupting. See, here's the issue.
Because you ramble for 20 minutes. You ramble.
So you don't even know how to count.
Different.
That wasn't even 20
it's
minutes.
Mania.
Is it hyperbole or
it's
is it
mania,
serious?
Sir. It's mania, sir. Control yourself.
I put you
and take
on
your
mute
medication.
because it's weird that you would tell me to control myself when you literally can't get your emotions in check long enough to quit arguing and interrupting when I'm trying to give you the definition of the word that I study. I'm a biologist. I know about this stuff. I do it for a living, and you have misdefined it and misunderstood it. And I'm trying to give you the definition, and you cannot stop interrupting me and getting your emotions up out of control. Even just now, you're sitting here raising your voice, accusing me of being mentally ill and maniac and all sorts of things. Just if you can't have an adult conversation, then I don't know why you're calling in. Besides the fact that this is almost certainly just somebody named Imperious who did the exact same shit a whole bunch of times, got banned for being a child, and now you're doing some weird workaround. That's what it sounds like to me, is that this is an ego trip for you.
Again, is this just more rambling, self-masturbatory, or is this like a discussion? Because a discussion isn't muting people when you're afraid of the answers. So
I wasn't afraid of the answer. You literally would not stop interrupting long enough for us to have this conversation.
If you were a biologist, you know what norepinephrine is. What is mania?
It's pronounced.
What is mania?
It's pronounced
you
norepinephrine.
ramble for 30 minutes. Norepinephrine is a medication, sir. Norepinephrine is the actual neurological chemical. You need to read up on your biology.
The neurological chemical.
A lawyer knows more about biology than you do. It's funny. Now
that's
if you'd
a
like to have
bizarre
a
claim
discussion,
to
why
make.
don't you have a good faith discussion? Why don't you have a good faith discussion and let people go back and
here's
forth
the thing.
instead of
I
silencing
would be more than happy. I'm just going to mute him again because he can't control himself. So here's the thing. You keep thinking that I'm afraid of you when I'm muting you. I'm muting you because you cannot stop interrupting. Like if you're just here to just throw around a bunch of hate and claim that I'm afraid of you. But here's the thing that I need you to understand. And it's very important. During my undergrad, I did some research into biomedical science, and I did some work in human anatomy, and I dissected human cadavers during that time. Then I did independent field research, which I studied human evolution and specifically worked on evolution of bipedalism, and again worked in a cadaver lab dissecting humans. Then my second master's degree was in biomedical science, where I spent hundreds of hours, again, in cadaver labs working on dozens of cadavers, and sometimes also teaching medical students about those cadavers. And I say all this so you understand, I have hundreds of hours of experience dissecting human beings. And I'm letting you know all that so that you understand my full meaning here, that I really am not exaggerating when I say I am not afraid of you. I've skinned people scarier than you. I'm putting you on mute because you can't control your emotions and quit interrupting people and going off on these tangents where you whine and bitch about us going on tangents. By the way, this time here where I've muted you and explained this to you has not been 20 or 30 minutes. Learn to count, Imperious. I'll bring you back now. Do you have anything serious to say, or are you just going to complain some more?
Yeah, it's very easy. I'd like to respond to that. I've done thousands and thousands of hours in court making arguments, and I know an insufficient argument when I see one, and that's what neo-Darwinism is. So if you want to play
to hear an argument.
Authority, I'm your authority, sir. So you make that argument.
To hear an argument.
No,
you've
so
yet
the
to
argument,
hear
sir. All you've done
just gone off on these tangents.
Sir, I made the argument. It's very simple. It's very, very simple. You've sat there in every single reason, and you've gone on tangents about your education, which nobody cares about. I talked about the mathematics, and you ran away from it. You ran away from it, sir. Do you know what the idea that one amino acid can randomly form is? The mathematical chance of that happening, the random creation of an amino acid.
We see it in space.
To fit in one blockchain.
In space.
It is 10 to the 77th power. Now you need 20.
The probability of amino acids forming
right?
naturally is 100%. Literally 100%, because we
so
see
now,
them.
Now you're interrupting, and you're going to get scared because I can't mute you, right? You're going to jump in and because I can't mute you.
No,
right?
I can even help with this. I can even
completely false.
No, you can't help with anything. You've made incorrect arguments. You can't address the mathematics.
Hey, you're wrong.
You're very wrong. And the thing is, we have found over 500 amino acids. We have found over 500 amino acids all around nature, and we found several dozen amino acids out in outer space as well. You need 20 amino acids for life. So, or at least life on Earth as we know it requires about 20 amino acids.
The chance of any amino acid forming into a blockchain is 10 to the 77th power.
That's also not true. So when you say into right, and when you say into a blockchain, what I'm assuming you mean
when a 20 choice codon goes into an amino acid, it is a 10 to the 77th over 1 odds of that happening.
Codons and amino acids.
And then on top of that, and then for every single block, you would have to make the observation and the mathematical calculation of every possible mutation of every possible life form on Earth that has ever been, which is 10 to the 40th power.
This is why you're a bad lawyer if this is how you argue. You should stick to law and not to mathematics or biology.
That's why I win, sir. That's why I win.
Because you shout over somebody else and accuse them of being scared of you?
Atheists don't win. You don't win. You keep losing. You can't hit the target.
Is this what now, Powder? Is this how you go and make an argument in front of the judge? You interrupt them and tell them they don't know the law.
And all you talk about
is this how it works?
And it sounds like you're a loser too, because you don't know how to make an argument. Congratulations.
You don't. You haven't answered a question. So let me ask you a question then. Because you haven't given me a solid one. You've just been rambling. You haven't presented a serious argument yet.
That nobody cares about.
Do you know why I said that? No, I'm just curious. Do you know why I mentioned my
10 to the 77th? Very simple.
Do you know why I mentioned my education Imperius?
Because nobody cares because you're trying to be big and bad when I have a superior education.
Because nobody cares is why I brought it up.
I have a doctorate. You need to bow down to me if you want to appeal to authority.
That's not what a Juris Doctorate means. A JD is different than a PhD. Anyway, the point is, I'm just gonna mute you again if you don't do this. I just gonna have to put you on mute again if you can't control yourself, dude. It's bad for the audience. Here's the thing. The reason why I brought up my education was to make a funny point about how silly you were being. See, that's the thing, is you clearly don't even have the cognitive ability to understand simple context clues and like how a show works. You've presented 2 bad arguments so far about evolution. One of them is mathematical, which didn't make any damn sense. The physicist with a doctorate is telling you it doesn't make any damn sense. And then the other one is to misrepresent how codons work and how amino acids work and ignore the fact that we find hundreds of different amino acids in space, out in nature, all around us, all the time. Then we have experimental evidence showing that they self-assemble. We have experimental evidence showing that they self-elongate into polypeptides. They form chains together all by themselves. And none of that even gets into the details of what evolution is, because those are questions about abiogenesis, which isn't evolution. So you don't seem to understand what evolution actually is. You don't know how it works. And you're sitting here on this ridiculous high horse saying that because you have a JD and a master's in law that you understand better about what, biology? That's a ridiculous. It's as silly as me saying that I'm a better lawyer than you because I have 2 master's degrees. That's a ridiculous thing to say. You are clearly still so far up your own emotional ass that you can't have a serious conversation with anybody. You just scream at them and try to insult them and say that they're going on tangents while you go on tangents. You're a bad lawyer and a bad interlocutor in shows like this, dude. Now, if you have a chance, I would love for you to actually define evolution and explain one real problem you have with actual evolution, and we'll talk about that. Otherwise, I don't think you're worth anybody's time.
Yeah, evolution is the small incremental changes of an organism to try to create a new organ, or which creates a new organism, the theory.
Wrong. Immediately wrong. Evolution doesn't apply to organisms.
You don't know man and women. You don't know what a man and a woman is, just like you don't know what evolution
is. You literally see, this is what I'm talking about. You're a terrible lawyer. How on earth could you be a good lawyer if you can't even stay on topic for one response?
Sir, it's about
evolution doesn't affect organisms.
Words is, sir. You don't know dicta.
Powder. I have to say, when it comes to your ways of arguing, if I may make an analogy here, Powder, your ability to argue about biology here in a analogy with law, you sound like a sovereign citizen. And you end up in jail with arguments that stupid and shitty. You are acting like you know biology in the same way a sovereign citizen thinks they know the Constitution and thinks that they have to be tried under maritime law. It makes you sound like a fucking idiot, and the difference is sovereign citizens end up going to jail because they're an idiot. You just get to look like an idiot on the internet, which is much less of a punishment.
It really is crazy that you're going to sit here and accuse us of going on tangents and stuff and being afraid of conversation when all I asked was, tell me what evolution is and what your problem is with it. You immediately got it wrong and said evolution is a change within organisms. No, it fucking isn't. Evolution affects populations, not individuals. Organisms don't evolve. That makes no sense. You don't know the first thing about the thing that you're arguing about. And then within the same breath, you went on saying liberals do these things, and then you threw in some transphobia. You don't know what a man and a woman is. Also, you are on such a fucking emotional tangent. You can't control yourself. It's sad. You are a terrible lawyer and a worse debater. Now, would you like to try again and tell me something that's actually true about evolution that we can talk about?
Like a coward. I know you're a coward and you mute people, but that's fine. That's fine.
Do you understand? No, again, do you know why I've muted you?
Run from
Do you know why I've muted you?
Run from the argument. It's okay. I'm still listening. Run from the argument. Run from it.
You're clearly not listening.
Do you know?
Moral epistemology when you don't have a moral center. It's funny how you judge
that.
people
See, and that's
your morals
again.
are preference.
That's a different argument.
No, sir. That's
You've
what
made
you just accused me
10
of.
different arguments that none of them have to do with evolution.
You don't judge. You have no morals. You don't have morals to judge. No, I'm a bad.
You don't know anything about it.
Homophobia. Why is homophobia wrong? You can't explain it. It's just your preference. It's what makes you feel good.
See, this is what I mean, dude, is that you've got... I muted him again. See, this is what I'm talking about. What are we doing? You called in to complain about evolution. You've yet to identify what evolution is, and now you're talking about morals, and you're talking about homophobia, and you're talking about liberals, and you're talking about law, and you're talking about all this, and you've yet to say what fucking evolution is. What are you thinking, Aaron?
I have to change my analogy. I have to change my analogy. I compared him to a sovereign citizen. That's not fair. Sovereign citizens will at least stick with one argument, even though it's bad.
That is true. That is true. Man, for somebody who's going to sit here and accuse us of being afraid of an argument and running away from an argument, you fucking run away from a lot of discussions. I'll help you. I'll do the work for you. I'll do the big, hard thinking, right? Evolution is any change in the heritable characteristics of a population over the course of multiple generations. And it is testable and observable. We have several different lines of evidence pointing to it. And we also have observational evidence actually watching evolution happen, both in the laboratory and in the field. That is the prompt. Can you respond to that? Or are you going to continue to whine and bitch and moan and complain about the way the show is run and about how scared we are and about liberals? And are you going to run to the next thing about transphobia? Or can you answer what I just said? Evolution is testable and observable. Go, Imperious.
I refute the definition presented. Very simple. And let's argue it.
Okay, then you disagree with what a thing is. Who gives a shit?
Simple. Okay,
that is the definition from evolutionary biology textbooks.
You don't know how to argue, sir. Define the argument parameters. Define the argument parameters before you can have an argument.
I'll make it even simpler. I'll make it really, really, really simple.
You want to define the biggest goalpost of data sets to help fit your narrative. Very simple. I understand.
I will make it simple and I'll lay out the argument.
Which is seen in the Stanford studies, which is Harvard accepts. To your own study.
I will give you the simple explanation. I'm literally quoting this. I'm quoting the definition from the textbooks, but it's easy.
I could quote the Harvard research study on what evolution is.
Oh, goodness.
Harvard
Please
biology.
Do.
I could quote Yale biology.
Go ahead.
Any kind of science.
Do it.
Okay.
Do it. Quote the Harvard study on definition. Give me the Harvard definition of evolution.
Very simple. Descent of modification starting in the origin of species is the mathematization of Darwin evolutionary theory, presenting that small incremental changes over time present a theory of the origin of species.
Yes, the origin of species.
You stupid son of a bitch.
That is
So you can
one
make
way
your
of
own
saying
definition up if you want, and we can argue your own
Imperious.
theoretical model synthesis.
Imperious, you just said the same thing that I said in different words.
No, I didn't.
Are you
Random
fucking
small
kidding me?
changes in an organism. You are saying
That
any
no,
changes.
you did not
You
say
said
the
any
word
changes,
organism.
dumbass.
Jared, you did not say the word organism in that
Small
definition.
genetic changes. Not
You didn't say the
changes
word
or any
organism in
changes.
that definition.
Not any changes,
Imperious,
dumbass.
you can't read. The definition you just gave didn't say organism.
Yes, it did. Origin of species. What is a species?
That's not
sir?
organism. Organism and
Literally
species
says
are
the
different
evolution of the
things.
contemporary. Okay, so what is?
I've got to mute him again because he's just screaming. He's just, what's killing me is this dude is in his house. I just want to just take this out of just for a second. This dude is in his house right now, actually red-faced screaming into his phone that species and organism are the same thing. And that's why he knows biology better than me. Dude,
Again,
you just
bring us back to the analogy of the sovereign citizen who says, I will not be represented, I will not be represented. You clearly are not understanding what words mean and making such obvious mistakes from the get-go that you don't even know how wrong you are. There's like Dunning-Kruger, and then there's Dunning-Kruger on the sort of powder that must be snorted to get to this level of erroneousness and confidence.
That's why he's Powder Emperor, because he snorted so much of the powder. Oh man, Imperious, I'm going to bring you back. Can you please tell me the definition, or no, not even the definition. Tell me the difference between the word organism and the word species.
Yeah, an organism is one individual. A species is a group of individuals. I'll give you a similar definition. John Endler. What did John Endler
That's good
call
enough.
it? Hold on. What did John
That's
Endler
good enough.
call it? Any changes in the frequency of alleles within an organism in relation from one generation of a species to the next. You're stupid. Your own side. You don't even have a definition of your own side.
It's pronounced alleles,
John
and
Endler,
also, yes, the alleles.
Your own leading
The alleles are within the organism. The alleles are within the organism.
Yes,
You're getting it wrong
we're talking
again.
about an organism, correct? We're talking about an organism.
No, that's not how it works.
An allele within an organism. An allele within an organism. What is an allele within an organism? Please explain that. What is within an organism?
Alleles
is within an organism within a species? Please go ahead.
The alleles are within the organism.
Mute people because you're scared? Are you going to run again? Mute people?
Oh my God! You are the
Powder.
You are so.
Let's try something simple. Let's try something simple.
See, the difference is your
Powder. Let's try to do something simple here.
What does Schopenhauer say? The world is an imposition
You can't.
This dude literally is his freaking name. Do you know any of these words?
You have no
Do you know these words?
You have no will.
This dude. You literally can't control your emotions long enough to hear the response.
And that's why
you asked me a question.
That's why
you asked me a question, and I tried to. I've got to mute him again. You're too emotional. You're too emotional. Right. I tried to answer your question, and I literally couldn't because you were screaming at me that I was running from the answer while I'm trying to answer it. You are so fucking frightened of an honest conversation between two people who know what the fuck they're talking about, and you're fucking screaming about alleles. It's pronounced alleles. First, just we'll start there. They're alleles, and they're within an organism, and then they are passed on to another organism. The organism itself does not evolve. The definition you just said is alleles within an organism. That doesn't mean the organism is doing the evolutionary change. It means that's where the fucking alleles are. You can't put them anywhere else. They're just in there. It's crazy
one other
to me.
point of this definition that's worth noting. We're usually talking about change in allele frequencies, right? You can't have an allele frequency with one individual.
That's exactly. The allele frequency is 100% for all alleles if you're talking about an organism. Another definition of evolution is a change in allele frequencies. You're absolutely right. And that is strictly focusing on Neo-Darwinian evolution. And I genuinely can't get past the fact that your reading comprehension, Imperius, is so fucking low that you can read that definition from Stanford or Harvard or whatever the fuck you said, which says the same thing I said in different words, and claim that not only is it not what I was talking about, but that it was what you were talking about, which was a completely different thing. So I don't know why. I'm having fun at this point. I'm going to bring you back. I'm going to let you ask me a question. And then I'm going to see if you have the capacity to let me answer the question that you asked. Imperius, you're back on. Give me a question about evolution, and I will try to actually answer it.
The organism? Is the data stored in the organism?
What data?
The data for the allele. I call it allele. It's the same thing as tomato. You need to have different kinds of verbiage.
What? I don't understand.
Speaking. You need to understand speaking dialects, sir.
Just speaking dialects. Okay, whatever. So the information,
sir, before you go around
the information.
You're racist.
Oh my God! See, this is what I'm talking about.
Your own standards. You can't even hold your own standards.
This is what I haven't answered the question yet. We're still here with you yelling, and you won't.
You make fun of people about
I think
linguistics.
the answer to the question is the hang up at this point. What's the point?
Yes. See, this is what I mean.
You sit there and
this is what I mean. Literally, Imperius, you're on mute again. Literally, you did the thing. Congratulations. You have proven me right. I asked for you to ask a question and let's see if you can let me answer it. And you said, where's the data stored? And immediately you ran the racism and atheist pig and all that. And you are now once again screaming, actually raising your voice alone in your apartment because you got yourself there. I have yet to answer the question and you are screaming again. You are so fucking out of control. Your emotions are so out of control. It's weird. I hope someday you learn to just have some logic and just not be operating just purely on emotion like this. It must be bad. It must be scary to get triggered so easily. Imperius, what's it like to be triggered so easily?
Jury trial, you appeal to emotion.
What's it like to be triggered so easily?
You don't know how to win
what's it like to be triggered so easily?
Sir. Emotions
what's
win
it like
wars.
I'm not a lawyer. I'm a biologist. You dumb fuck. That's why I don't do a jury trial.
You don't make money. Get out of here.
What's it like? What's it like to be? Yes, money is the thing.
Respect your superior.
Do it again. Do it again.
Do what again? Say that you should respect your superior? Very simple.
No, I'm asking you, what's it so like? What does it feel like? What does it feel like to be so guided by emotion? Is it difficult to be triggered so easily? Is it difficult to be triggered so easily? Is it difficult to live your life that way?
Because you're
muted again. Does it feel bad to be muted? I'm going to bring you back. Does it feel bad to be muted? Does it hurt you? Does it make you feel sad?
Yeah. Does it make you feel bad that you're?
Does it feel bad to be? Does it get in you? Does it get at you? Does it tickle you in bad ways? Or do you enjoy the punishment? Maybe that's the thing, because you evaded a ban. You were banned from the show because you were just so emotional and you couldn't control yourself. And now you've made some other ridiculous name to try to call in with. Maybe you just like it. Do you like it? Is it a shame? Is it a kink thing?
Yeah,
we don't kink shame you. We're okay with that. Is it just is it super upsetting for you to be muted this way, to be treated this way? Do you feel big when you yell at people? That's my question. Imperius, do you feel big when you yell?
On 8? Yeah, I like.
Yeah, you like to yell. See, we got it right there. I think that's it. You like yelling. It makes you feel big because you're a small person with a small mind, and it makes you feel big and powerful to yell at people. Do you think that is something that we should respect? Like somebody who just thinks that yelling is something that makes them big? Or do you think we should respect intellect and good arguments?
No, you should respect someone that has.
Yeah, see, that's what I'm talking about. I think we should respect someone who has a good argument, and that's what you were going to say anyway. That's what you were going to get to, is we should respect somebody who has good arguments and something reasonable to say and doesn't just scream and cry and beg and cheat and all these weird things that you do whenever you don't get your way. Do you think that we should argue with people who behave like children, Imperius? Do you think that if someone's going to call in and they just can't control their own emotions and they just keep screaming and yelling and can't even let somebody answer a question, that we should give them too much more airtime? Do you think that's a reasonable thing for us to do?
We should argue with people that kill.
See, that's what I'm saying. See, again, you can't even answer a question. It's just over and over. How long do you scream in your normal days? Is it only here when you call us that you start screaming, or is it like something you do at home? Do you do it to your family? Do you do it to your friends? Are you as abusive to them as you are to us?
Yeah, only women get mad at.
Is your mom proud of you for the kind of person that you've turned into? Are your parents proud that this is what you've done with your life, that you pretend to be a lawyer online so that you can scream at people and call them names? Is this what you wanted to be? Is this what they wanted for you, is really the question.
Is your mom proud that you killed?
Can you define what an ad hominem fallacy is? That's a question also. Can you define what an ad hominem fallacy is? Because a lot of people can't. I think that a lot of times people think that insulting somebody is ad hominem, and I don't think that's, a reasonable way to say it. So I was curious if you can define ad hominem, or will you do as poor of a job at defining that as you defining evolution?
Oh, you mean everything you said?
Who's your favorite author?
Make it hurt your feelings.
It just keeps going. I have a question. I have another question. If you were halfway serious about taking yourself seriously, I know that's kind of weird cyclical, but like if you took yourself seriously, would you still be here being muted again and again like this, saying dumb shit, screaming into the void, behaving like a petulant child? Is that a thing that someone with self-respect and self-worth would be doing?
I'm getting
Imperious, I hope someday that literally anybody takes you as seriously as you take yourself. Just because, like, I don't. And I don't think anybody in the chat does. But I feel like you need it. I feel like you need that hug deep down inside. I also hope someday that you learn to read. Here's a real fact for you, Imperious. I'm going to go ahead and pull this up really quick so we're on the same page. These are literacy statistics from the National Literacy Institute here. Illiteracy is a major problem in the United States. I see you're calling from the USA. 21% of adults in the United States are illiterate. Did you know that? That's an actual real statistic. 21% of adults and 54% of adults have a literacy level below 6th grade. And so those are the types of people that would like read the definition of evolution and then immediately say that it's actually something entirely different. This is why education is important, Imperious. If we all get together and we work really hard and we try to restructure our society, then we might be able to improve the education system to a point where people can learn to read effectively and that they aren't left out in the cold pretending to be lawyers on the internet and pretending to know what evolution is. That's what I think. You know what I mean? I believe in a better future for us. Anyway, Imperious, this is quickly becoming boring for me now. It was funny for a minute, and now it kind of isn't. Aron, are you good to move on? Do you have any other questions?
I've seen this fish flopping. I've seen this fish flopping on the deck for a while. Just throw it back. Let's get on with it.
Yeah, it's kind of over. Although I will say, Imperious, if you are the most useless, whiny bitch in the universe, then you will walk away from this call claiming that you won because we were too scared to have a conversation with you. So don't do that, because that would just make you ridiculously predictable and sad. And I don't want that for you, buddy. I want you to be better. I want you to look back at this call and be like, you know what? Maybe if I had stopped screaming for 5 seconds, I might have heard the words of people who study the things that I think aren't real. And maybe I should be better. Maybe I should grow as a person. Yeah, that'd be good. Anyway, have fun being racist and anti-Semitic and weird somewhere else. Bye. Man, what a fun guy.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. No, I'm pretty sure I'd rather talk to a mushroom. That's an actual fun guy.
It's fun. It's just a silly time with somebody who doesn't know how to control their emotions. And like, honestly, I don't want to shame anybody for having low emotional maturity, but gosh, when you're going to just put your entire ass all over the internet, you know what I mean? Like it's fun. We've got 2 calls left and I'm excited for both of them. We've got Zeno, pronouns he, him, calling him from South Korea, who is a deist, wants to discuss why he believes in God. Zeno, you're on the line with Forrest and Aron. How you doing today?
Hey, well, not so good after that last call.
It's a harsh. It's harsh, bud, bruh.
Yeah, that was really, really tough for me. So we can jump straight into it. So I was told to call here by some friends because they like my philosophies and stuff. I'm just gonna take my crack at it. Where do you stand for us? What do you think explains how we got here?
We humans? Are we living organisms? Are we earthlings? Like what are you talking about?
You know, everybody within an experience. Everything was consciousness.
Oh, sure.
How
Consciousness is the emergent property of the electrochemical activity of brains, usually. And so, yeah, that's just a thing that we call us experiencing stuff. And like I said, it's an emergent situation. So you get to kind of a threshold where you have enough neurons doing enough stuff, or not, because there's things you could call consciousness and kind of smear it into other situations. But yeah, that's where consciousness comes from. What it is, it's just it's a thing that brains do. It's an emergent property of matter in certain situations, the same way that the tides are emergent properties, is an emergent property of very specific matter in a very specific organization.
Well, what if I told you that it may appear that way, but it doesn't actually work that way? Like, do you understand?
I wouldn't believe you, like, unless you had better evidence.
Simulation. Let's say we existed inside of a game world.
Sure.
If we existed inside of a game world, you could never technically meet your creator, right? Like, do we agree there?
Mm-hmm. Sure. Maybe, probably.
Okay, so if you could never meet your maker, you try to describe everything around you, but you fail to understand that you have a maker. You could never technically understand it as an NPC. So what I'm saying is, you may be explaining what you see around you, but what you're not explaining is why you see those things around you. You understand the why is important?
The biggest issue that I have with this is that, sure, why not? But like, do we have any evidence or any reason to believe that that's either the case or even a good analogy for reality or anything like that? Because I don't think we do. I can sit here and talk about how, like, if there are gnomes living under my house, then like it would make sense that maybe they had like cotton candy instead of a nervous system. They just had like strings of sugar living there, and that's kind of like what it would be. And like, cool, but like, does that mean anything, or does it just, why would I care?
Evidence.
Okay, what is that?
Well, okay, as human beings, we do create, like PS5 and shit, right? Like Xbox Ones, and we're probably going to have a PS6 really soon, hopefully.
Are you about to do a watchmaker analogy and say these things are made and therefore somebody probably made us too?
Well, you asked for evidence. Evidence is a reason to believe something, right?
Sure.
Yeah, so evidence is simply a reason to believe something. I'm not saying that is definitively the reason to believe it, but it is a reason, it is evidence, because we do generate worlds. We've just now gotten into the AI shit and found out there's another world of possibility that people didn't understand was possible, right? Like, we have crypto. There's people who still don't really understand what the fuck that is. But the thing is that what you fail to understand is that we've already generated worlds with a mass amount of space, with actors in it.
Mm-hmm.
And so these actors are having
not with consciousness.
Yeah.
We haven't created any consciousnesses in a digital format.
We have created consciousness, or we have not?
We've not.
I have not.
I
Nothing that we can say is actually appears to be conscious that we've created in a digital environment. So definitely not in any of the video games we've made. And the closest you're going to probably point to is something like ChatGPT. And I would also say no, we have not shown that even that is conscious. And given there's been a lot of effort to make artificial intelligence, and we still haven't.
Well, how would you test?
Here's one thing. Well, here's one thing. We know how things like those large language models are built. And there's one thing I know what is different between an LLM and my brain is that I can sit here on my own and think about my own thoughts. The way a large language model works is that if you don't ping it with a request, it just sits there and does nothing. And we know that because we programmed it. We know how it works, and we know it's not even capable of thinking about its own
programmer. But how do you know you don't?
That's a different question.
Yeah,
but
that's a different question than what you were saying here before about ChatGPT.
Well, no. You're just not able to see how I'm drawing a connection here. When I say
because it's a non sequitur.
If you are,
yeah, that's
me
that's the biggest thing, man. Is that it's what I'm trying to get across to you is, and I think what Aaron's trying to get across to you as well is that like you're providing us with an unfalsifiable claim. It's non sequitur. It's just what if, and like sure, what if, but like that doesn't mean anything unless you have a reason to believe that this God is serious. Then drawing a connection to a video game or anything like that doesn't really help. It's like, if I try to explain different things, I might use analogies like these, but the thing that I'm explaining should matter first before I draw an analogy for something that's completely pointless. So like, do you have a reason to believe that a God is real besides just like sophistry? Because I was willing to let it go to say evidence is a reason to believe something, but it sounds like you're using the word evidence in exchange for like anything that kind of almost sounds like maybe there's God instead of what evidence actually is.
Okay, so I think you're completely missing the picture, Forrest.
Okay,
and I have to try to redirect you because you're simply just incorrect here. I'm going to point out why. So
sure,
this is the big thing, right? When we ask ourselves, do we have a creator? Are we programmed? That's a huge question. That's not something we sweep under the rug because, well, you don't have evidence. My question is, if you and I make a game right now or a program and we create characters inside of it, if you are the characters within the game, there's no evidence I can give you to show you that a creator made you. So you have to understand, well, this is why solipsism exists, right? Because we can't prove without a shadow of a doubt that any of this isn't simulated. We can't prove any of that, right?
Right.
Right.
And so why aren't you believing those things?
Like, well, I'm showing you how we can demonstrate it here in the physical world. That you can make worlds.
You're contradicting yourself. You're saying both it's unprovable and you have evidence for it. Those two cannot be both true at the same time.
Yes, they can. They actually can.
You can't say there's no way you can show something and you can show something.
So we do make programs, correct? As human beings, we do make programs, right?
Nobody's saying we don't.
That behave based off the code. I am a programmer, by the way. If whether you use nodes or C++, we're generating a behavior for something to move. Now that is within another realm. That what exists is still in the natural world, sure. And your creator, God, whatever you want to call it, he could be imperfect, but your creator does exist within the natural world, but it's not in your dimension. So I'm explaining the evidence is what we do as human beings is the evidence. That is an evidence is defined as a reason to believe something. Sure, you might.
Here's the problem, though.
Good evidence.
Here's the things. What you have here is not actually evidence. What you are doing is saying because we can do something, potentially something else could have also been the case. What you've made is a modal claim that something is possible, and let's just accept that as is. That something is possible does not mean that thing is also probable. To be evidence, you have to make something actually probable, not merely possible.
It is. It's very probable, but my question is to you is, all right, let's change this up a little bit. Do you believe, what do you believe? Are you agnostic or are you atheist?
Atheist.
I am a very virulent, terrible, baby-eating atheist. The worst kind of atheist you could ever atheist.
Okay. So you don't, I used to be agnostic. So I would say I don't know. So you're not even saying I don't know anymore. You feel like you just reject a creator, right? Right? You just reject all creators. Is that what you're saying?
I don't have a good reason to believe in any kind of creator. And if there is a kind of creator, then I certainly don't like them very much.
And
Okay,
I'll
so
say that
you don't have a reason
my
to believe in
assertion
the
is that there
creator.
is no good reason. To make this clear for me is that I say there is not only no positive evidence for any sort of supernatural causation, including a supernatural creator, I think there is strong evidence against that, and there's all sorts of prior reasons that those things are implausible in the first place. So I would say, as a scientific hypothesis, supernatural entities doing things is as close to falsified as we can scientifically demonstrate.
Okay, so as a creator, like you guys are content creators, you're saying you just don't believe in creators. I don't believe in God. I don't believe in the Bible. I don't believe in any type of religion, but I do believe in creators. So I'm stuck. I've done this a lot of times. So we're talking about a God, but we're talking about a creator because God is a creator. I'm not going to add properties to him like immunity and stuff like that. I'm just saying a creator does exist. Now,
so if the argument here is that, like, if the issue here is that we are programmers and we are creators and all these things, and therefore the thing that created us is also a creator, programmer, whatever, and it goes back and back, then where does it end? There's an infinite regress here of, like, what's the thing that doesn't, the thing that programs and creates that wasn't programmed or created?
So I hear you, Forrest. I've done this with Matt 100 times in the past. But I just want to let you know, you said what created the creator? Like, when you keep going back, you regress. Well, I'm sorry, but that doesn't rule out a God. Yes, sure, it goes back. It keeps going back. It just goes back far enough to the point where we can't even study it. That's the problem for some people to wrap their minds around. That does not rule out a creator. Do you get what I mean?
Sure.
It continues to go back.
It doesn't say there isn't one, but it removes one more good reason to believe there is one. See, that's the thing, is that neither Aaron nor I are saying that there absolutely, for sure, positively, no shadow of any doubt, no way, there is no such thing as a God, period. We're saying we don't believe there is such a thing. And we're waiting on good evidence to believe there is such a thing. Because if I were to say there is no God, I would need as much evidence as if I had to say there is a God. That's a definitive claim. I'm just saying I have no reason to think that there is.
But what is a God?
In the colloquial context in which we're operating right now, a thinking agent that makes the universe.
The universe? Or what about a program that other people can alter to also build within?
Is that what we are living in right now?
Yes.
Then the universe would apply. The word universe applies. It's just a different terminology. The point is, all we're saying here is that, like, I don't.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't think there's any good reason to believe there's anything outside of this universe that creates this universe.
You don't think there's a good reason to think a creator could possibly make a system or like an engine that's modifiable? That's your claim.
If a creator existed, who knows? But you would have to demonstrate that this creator exists. You have to demonstrate. You have to demonstrate that this creator exists, that they can do that they did do that, and then that we have a reason to believe all of those, that, like, there's evidence of those things. Like, there's so much there, and just saying, well, I don't know, maybe it's a simulation, that's not a good enough reason to then posit that there is absolutely something outside of space and time with super magic powers that can create universes and stuff. And, like, that doesn't make any sense.
Why is it super? Okay, but why is it super magic? I mean, you're a smart guy. You understand biology. I've listened to you for about 5 days now, and I'm glad to talk to you first. But my question is, why do you think it's super magical to create something?
But because it was certainly not. I'm using the word magic as a fill-in to say the supernatural ways in which the universe is created. There are some people out there that say that the universe, the laws of physics are just the guiding hands of this God, that this God is doing things using the laws of physics to do those things. But that still doesn't get us before the Big Bang, whatever before the Big Bang means. And it certainly doesn't answer the question of, where the universe came from in the first place. All of that is supernatural. It's outside of the natural order. It is, therefore, magic.
That's just a horrible take. I'm sorry. But maybe you deal with so many rookie callers. Why? It's hard for you. I hear what you're saying, but it's just you're hand waving. You're saying like, oh, it's magic. It's not magic. It's kind of like biology, actually. There's a lot of shit you have to learn about this world.
I think we need to do some clarifications here. If we're talking about something outside of our universe, if it's outside the natural order, then we'd have to say it is supernatural.
Mm-hmm.
It's not outside, but it's not outside. See, I'm not one of those callers.
You literally contradict yourself in a sentence. I don't know how to even move forward with that.
So hold on, I'll tell you how to move forward. You take a game like Super Mario Brothers or
No. Here's the thing. You are contradicting yourself in a sentence. Going forward is quite useless at this point.
No, I said, is it outside of reality? Is Zelda outside of reality, or is it within?
See, this is the thing: is this stacking simulations? I don't understand.
It's a simple yes
point.
or no.
Yeah, no.
You're going to see
the video game world
right now.
What it sounds like you're saying. What it sounds like you're saying, Zeno, is that the video game world of Zelda exists within the real world. And therefore, it's reasonable to assume that our world is a smaller subset, a smaller simulation of a bigger reality. And so the functions of whatever this God, this creator, whatever, are totally normal physical things happening within the laws of physics in the bigger reality that are creating the different laws of physics of our reality. That's where it sounds like you're going.
That I think you understand not where I'm going, but I think you understand that's also a possibility.
No, it's not. Well, sure, it's a possibility, but it's a dumb possibility to hinge on, is the thing. So,
it's dumb?
That's
how's programming dumb?
I didn't say programming was dumb. That's not at all what I said.
But you said it's
That's
dumb.
not at all what I said. No, I said it's a dumb thing to assume is true. It's not that it's not a possibility. It's not that it's not a possibility. It's that it's a ridiculous thing to assume is true because it is an I'm trying to answer you. Because it is an unfalsifiable claim. And so for the same reason that you are not going to sit here and argue with me that maybe actually we are brains in vats being fed chemicals by our robot overlords, because we know brains exist and we know that we can give them chemicals and make them think things. And so it stands to reason that we actually are just brains in jars and that there's robots administering chemicals to make us think that we're having this conversation when really we're not, because that's an unfalsifiable claim. It's possible, it makes sense, but it has no reason for you to actually think that it's true. Same exact thing for this. There is nothing, absolutely nothing that I could ever say that would confirm or deny this simulation idea of yours. Absolutely nothing. And therefore, it's a useless idea. And to say that the idea itself is evidence is ridiculous.
Welcome to solipsism. Are you a solipsist?
No, and I don't think you are either. And why not?
I am a solipsist. And Matt is too, by the way. But I'm a solipsist.
Actually, Matt is not.
Matt is definitely not. So you
can go in the past. You can go look.
So you think that nothing exists except for your own mind?
No, that's the standard definition. We got to go into an advanced definition of solipsism. It means
actually, that's called making shit up and pretending you're smart, and that's kind of annoying to put it mildly.
Let me try again.
You have a special definition, and yours is advanced. That is called bullshit.
On definition. I
also can tell you you are. That's the issue, man. It's like that is.
Let me just say.
Let's use the word. Because hard solipsism, the unsolvable problem of hard solipsism is exactly that. You have no way of proving that you are not the only thing that exists. You can see me speaking directly to the camera. The unsolved, dude, you're gonna have to just stay on track here. The unsolvable problem of hard solipsism is that you cannot actually prove or deny in any way that your mind is not the only thing that exists. Your thinking mind is the only thing that exists, and everything. Okay, prove it wrong. How do you prove that wrong?
I'm trying, but I have to get a chance to get some words out. So
prove me wrong. Prove that you are not the only thing that exists in the entire universe.
All right. No. You're getting caught up on definitions. Let's cut the word out. Let's just say I can't prove that I'm not in simulation.
We are not doing what you. Zeno, you are not telling us what to do with this call. You said
simulation.
You need to prove. You just said that you can solve the problem of hard solipsism. So do it.
No, I did not. You walked yourself there. I didn't say that. Hold on, Forrest.
Hold on. Dude.
Hold on. I'm only saying I am a solipsist. I don't have the answer for hard solipsism, but what I'm saying, I am a solipsist. Because I can't prove, neither can you, that you were not just programmed, right? We don't even know if consciousness simply means having an experience.
You continue to fail to do the thing that we keep asking you to do, which is to try to do this exact same thought experiment with literally any other unfalsifiable claim. And you keep dismissing other unfalsifiable claims and then sticking to the one that you like. And that's a silly thing to do. Prove to me that you are or are not the only thinking thing in the entire universe, and the entire universe is just in your mind. Prove to me that is either true or not true.
I'll answer it with an analogy. Prove to me that you didn't have a dream last night.
I would rather you just actually answer it with an answer.
I am answering the question. Prove to me.
No, this is avoidance behavior of the highest.
Yeah.
Just prove to me you had a dream. Can you prove the color red to someone that's colorblind? Can you prove the color blue? Show it with a wave function.
These are different concepts than what you are claiming and from what I am arguing. So you're asking these questions because it's like, oh, see, this also is unanswerable. It's different things. They're different concepts entirely. You're just dodging. You have no way of proving that this simulation idea of yours either is or is not real. You have no evidence whatsoever that you could possibly point to even give you a hint that it is or is not true, because any evidence, even if you had perfect evidence that we are not in a simulation, I could then tell you that evidence is part of the simulation and it's part of the unique physics of this world that the other world created. And even if you give me proof positive that we are in a simulation, I can just say, okay, you're in a different level of the simulation. That's actually not what this is. And in fact, the natural world is organized in such a way to make it look like a simulation naturally. And there's nothing you can do to prove me wrong. There's nothing, absolutely nothing that anybody, anybody
could claiming victory for yourself.
That could back up what you are saying. You are just saying shit as if it matters, and it doesn't.
You're so confused. You're so lost.
I'm giving you the reason why I don't agree with you, and you've yet to grapple with it.
I've grappled with this for over 25 years. Please, I'm sorry, but you guys, the IQ's not there for you guys. Maybe you guys can get better, and I'll call back.
Okay, so then you're just going to be shitty and insulting then for no reason. After you've spent this entire time just fucking ignoring every counter argument to what you're claiming. That sucks. What a lazy argument you're making. It doesn't matter. He hung up after he said some insulting shit. Just dude cannot handle a serious conversation about his beliefs. That sucks. Also, like, can you prove colors? Yes, you can prove colors. What the fuck does that? It's just so. I was gonna let it go, but I can't. I'm hung up on it. Ugh.
Just to try to defend how that question could be, if he's going the qualia route that your sensation of red can't be proven to be the same as my sensation of red, even if the light producing is the exact same wavelength that we can test with our equipment. Mm-hmm. At best, that's where he might be going with that sort of thing. But again, completely irrelevant to whether you can prove solipsism is true or false. And definitely irrelevant to the question of if we're in a simulation or not. So like I say, non sequiturs, self-contradiction, making up his own definitions and claiming that his is a higher, better sort. Yeah, that's just someone who has declared themselves king of the intellectual world.
It's crazy to me, and I still can't get over. And like, go back and just rewatch the call. I swear to God, I wasn't missing it. Like the actual thing came out was, but we were talking about hard solipsism, and like, you can't prove that you are or not the only thing in the universe. Yes, I can. Okay, then do it. I never said I could do that. Am I crazy, or did that happen? Like, I swear to fuck that happened. Like,
I think there was a confusion there as well, because I think he might have been arguing about his definition of solipsism, because apparently he has his own definition of solipsism.
Right.
That's what I think he was saying, that he can prove. And guess what? You don't prove definitions. Definitions are just how we agree on what words mean.
And also, Matt is a solipsist, apparently. I'll be sure to let him know, because I don't think he's aware.
Yeah.
Glob, dude.
I think I know where that's coming from, because I remember there's a previous call and Matt shouting, it's like, no, I can't solve the problem of solipsism. That does not make him a solipsist.
A solipsist,
he believes he actually is. Yeah. So, again, there's just so much confusion there.
There's one call left on the line, and then we'll wrap up our show. We've got Paul, pronouns he, him, calling in from all the way over in the UK, who's a theist who wants to make the case for metaphysical idealism. I'm not a fan of it, but let's hear it out. Paul, you're on the line with Forrest and Aaron. How you doing? Paul, if you're using the web caller right now, we can't hear you because your phone is asleep. So tap your phone, wake it up. Once your phone's awake, we will be able to hear you.
Is it any better now? Hello,
Yes.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Oh, great. Okay, yeah, I'm doing very well, guys. How are you doing yourselves?
Fantastic. Please
hear my dog in
please
the
make that
background as well.
stop.
He's very interested in joining in on the call.
I will pull my eyeballs out.
Hello?
Hello.
I've just gone somewhere where the dog can't follow me.
Perfect. Thank you.
Hi, can you hear me? Hello? Can you hear me now?
Yes. Yes, I can.
Great. Great. Okay. So yeah, it's not too dissimilar an area to speak about than where the last caller was coming from. Hopefully, I can make my case with a little more clarity, though, and hopefully we can have a bit of a change of pace and have a calm and collected and respectful back and forth about it.
Fuck you.
Oh, no, can't do. This is all about arguing.
Yeah, fuck you too.
Yeah. All right, sure. Let's try it. Let's see what's up. What are you thinking?
Yeah. Okay, so it might take a little bit of time if either of you guys are quite familiar with the case that's forwarded by Dr. Kastrup, if you've ever heard of this guy.
No, I'm sorry. I don't know.
No,
the name is familiar, but I've read nothing by him.
Oh, I see. Okay. I also haven't read anything, but I've listened to a lot of his...
Did we lose you? Is your phone asleep again?
I'll tap your phone.
Paul, are you there?
Yeah.
Sorry about that. Did the phone go to sleep again?
I think so.
It did, I think. But we hear you now.
Oh, great. Okay. So yeah, I was just sort of crediting, if you will. Sorry, I need to deal with the dog. Hogan.
What is this call?
Am I still with you?
What is this call?
Am I still with
you?
you?
Are.
You are.
You're still with us.
All right. Sorry about that. He found his way into the room, the dog, I mean, and it was going to make the call annoying again. Right. Yeah. So metaphysical idealism, quite similar to where the previous guy was coming from, where we were talking about simulations and such. Effectively, it's the ontology that posits consciousness as the primitive rather than material as the primitive. Hello?
Okay.
Right.
Right. Okay, great. So step one, I think you both agree with me on this in how I begin to make my case, at least. There's some experience is happening. That much is given. That much is known. It's the thing I'm least able to doubt. It's kind of like similar to Cartesian, but I don't even assume a subject. I'm just going to say some experience is happening.
Okay.
Is that a fair enough place to have like as a bedrock of an epistemology? Do you think?
Yeah, why not? I know things are. I think that's where I am.
I'm going to make one thing
Yeah, similar to
difficult.
that.
If something is having experience, there must be a subject, because otherwise there's just an experience, and an experience can only exist with the subject experiencing. But this is, I think, a pointless digression.
You're way ahead of me here. That is actually my second step, is to say that it's a conjecture, but it's a reasonable conjecture, that if there's an experience, then there's an experiencer.
Right. Sure.
Yeah? Okay, cool. My third step is to avoid solipsism with an axiom. Okay? So the axiom is that mine is not the only...
Oh my God, Paul, wake your phone up. Your phone's asleep. Wake your phone up. I'm losing.
Okay, I've woken up the phone again. Sorry about that. So the third step, I don't know how much
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Cool. It's to avoid...
You were starting your third.
I want to avoid solipsism.
Yes.
So
with an axiom,
and I can't solve it. I have no solution for hard solipsism. So I just come up with an axiom, and the axiom says, "Mine's not the only perspective from which an experience is happening." I'm not claiming to know that for a fact, but it kind of seems that way. And if it isn't that way, then like, what are we doing anyway? There's no pursuit of knowledge, and I don't really want to give up the pursuit of knowledge. So I just use an axiom.
Okay.
Is that reasonable? Hello?
I'm willing to go with it for now. Let's see where we're going.
Yeah.
Okay, great. So the fourth step is to notice intersubjective agreements. Okay, so if we axiomatize that we're not the only beings having conscious experiences, that other beings are having those experiences, it does seem that we agree on certain things, like there's an apple on the table is brown, the apple is red, etc., etc. And something would seem to be responsible for the fact that we're having those agreements. And I think there are two main lines philosophically of explaining those. The mainstream one is to say that there's a mind-independent material universe that holds the facts of the matter. That holds, a certain matrix of values, if you will, from which our experiences are derived. That's one way of explaining the agreements. And the competing way is the way that my opinion goes with, which is that there is something outside of my mind and yours, but that thing is not outside of mind altogether. It's what you might call a mind at large. So there's an objective world. It is real, but it's not physical. It's mental.
So the issue that I have, Paul.
Sorry, go on. Yep.
I'm sorry. I didn't mean to interrupt you. I thought you were at the end of a thought.
No, it's fine. It's fine. If you've got a question or a comment, then I'd rather hear it.
So I've talked to different idealists before that are making a similar argument as you, and I just want to make sure I'm on the same page then, because it seems like the logical end of this is, if nobody is looking at the moon, is the moon still there? I'm asking you,
right,
in your framework that you're proposing, does the moon exist if nobody's looking at it?
I would say that it does, but not in the way that we usually experience it.
What if, hypothetically, we all become mole people, all humans live underground, nobody ever sees the sky again, and nobody learns one day the knowledge of the moon is lost. So all humans, nobody sees the sky, and nobody knows that the moon exists. Does the moon exist?
Paul, I think your phone might have gone to sleep again.
I'm going to lose it, dude. Keep that phone.
Sorry about that. Yeah, there must be some way of going into the settings and sorting that out, but I haven't found it yet. Okay, so the question was, we all become mole people, we move underground, we lose knowledge of the moon. With the moon.
So no person, no human being alive has ever seen the moon, nor do they even have a concept of what the moon is. Nobody knows the moon exists. Does the moon still exist?
It does, Jim, but not as we know it. So, effectively, as an idealist, what I believe that what we call material things, that they're actually processes in consciousness. Bill Hicks described it very, very well in one of his bits. He did a bit, I don't know if you've ever heard it, on positive drug stories.
Nope, but I do have a follow-up question whenever you're done.
Okay, cool. Okay, so during that bit, he talks about how it's always negative stories on the news about drugs, and then he says, why don't we have a positive drug story? And then he gives his own positive story. He says, today a young man on acid realized that we're all just one consciousness experiencing itself subjectively, that there's no such thing as death, life is only a dream, and we are the imagination of ourselves. Here's Tom with the weather.
Neat.
Yeah, and I kind of think that that's not only good comedy. I think that I kind of agree with that on the philosophical front as well. So something still exists that when we would perceive it, we would call the moon, but that it's a process in consciousness. So the physical aspect of it is rendered by observation. From my perspective, physicality is the language of perception. So it's a model, essentially. It's either a colloquial model as we navigate the world, or it's a...
Tap your phone.
I think his phone went to sleep again.
Tap your phone. Tap your phone. Tap your phone. Tap your phone. Tap your phone.
Yeah, sorry. What did I get up to?
You're talking about how this is a mental process. It's a process to see the things and to experience the things.
Okay. Yeah. So there's still something there. There's still something in the objective world. But the disagreement would be whether or not that thing is actually physical, because physicality under this philosophy would just be the language of perception. So,
okay.
How Castro? Sorry, go on. Did you have a follow-up question?
Yeah. So back to the mole moon thing. We're all mole people,
Yeah.
and so physicality is just the language of perception. I get that. We're mole people. No one's ever seen the moon. No one's ever heard of the moon. Nobody knows what the moon is. Assuming what you just said is true, one person one day digs up and pops up on the surface, and for the first time in as far as they know, all of humanity, this is the first human being now seeing the surface of the planet. It's nighttime. They look up. What do they see?
Well, they see the moon, but they probably don't know it as such. So they see a phenomenon.
Right, but what would they understand that to be? I think your phone went to sleep again because you got cut off there in the middle of
tap
word.
the phone again. That's when you answer this question.
But like, what they're seeing, they're seeing the moon
shape in the sky.
Right, but that is a physical thing, right?
Is it?
Yes,
I mean,
it's a physical. Otherwise,
Paul, it's what you said. It's exists independent of observers as ourselves. It was existing independent of our mind, because then once our mind happened to point in that direction, there it was.
like I'm all down for the vibes, man, of saying like we only experience reality the way that we experience it, and the way that we communicate reality changes our experience of it. The language that we choose to use alters our perceptions and our experiences. I agree with all those things, but then taking that extra step out into bullshit to say therefore things aren't really what they are, they're just what we think they are collectively, that doesn't really work. Things are what they are, and what we think about them collectively is different. Well, that's what it sounds like it's going to. So please explain where I'm misunderstanding.
Sure. Well, I mean, it's perfectly reasonable for you to think that might be where I was going, but actually what I do is I take that point of intersubjective agreements and then make two different assumptions and follow those through and analyze which is superior in several respects. So I look at the conceptual parsimony, the logical coherence, the internal consistency, the explanatory power, the empirical support. And there was one more, which I've actually forgotten. It will come back to me.
For what specifically? For what claim do you have all of these things?
Right. Okay. So those two alternative secondary axioms are an attempt to explain the intersubjective agreements that we have between our experiences. One is the mainstream materialist idea that the thing outside of your mind and mine is a independent material reality. And then the more idealistic view is that the thing that's outside of your mind and mine is more mind stuff, just external to mine and your individuations of mind.
It sounds to me like you were arguing for the former while saying that you're arguing for the latter. I don't understand where the disconnect is between the two of us here. Maybe I'm just missing something egregious. Maybe I'm very dumb. I am very dumb. Maybe I'm very dumb on this specific call. Like, it sounds to me like you are saying either objective reality exists and it is a physical objective thing outside of our minds, or our minds are actually influencing it. And then when we take the argument of the moon, no, the moon is actually definitely there. We just might perceive it differently if we don't have any context. And that is arguing for the first thing, that there is objective reality outside of our minds that is physical and eternal, and that we are interacting with it but not shaping it.
I see. Okay. So yeah, what I'm saying is similar to, say, like in a Grand Theft Auto game, the world that exists in data form only, which isn't currently being interacted with by the system, hasn't yet been rendered. And so it kind of exists, but it doesn't exist as you experience it when the game is rendering what you're actually observing. So something of the noumenal exists. That is where the moon is, and that's I would say, according to my philosophy, that's a process in consciousness, not a process in our consciousness, but a process in the consciousness of mind at large.
For that to be the case, it sounds like, at least from where I'm sitting, it sounds like that would mean that we would have to have a special place in our minds for literally everything that could possibly exist, just in case we ever come across it, for that part of our mind to start doing a thing.
If it was all in our minds, yes. But our minds are localizations. So have you heard of the psychiatric disorder of dissociative identity disorder?
Yes, I have.
Okay. So what I'm suggesting is similar to that, in that with that you have a host mind, which is self-generated, self-contained alters. So effectively, we as localizations of consciousness are the dissociated alters, and the mind at large, if you will, is the host mind.
Okay. So it's like the Force, only with minds.
I'm not sure. Is it like the Force? Well, you know what I'm saying is the primitive.
We're like the fucking the mind flayers. There's the one super mind that we're all just connected to and are a part of, and we can be more or less distant from it. But at the end of the day, we're all connected to the super mind, and the super mind is what actually is reality.
Yeah, like in the Bill Hicks thing, where essentially we're all one consciousness experiencing itself subjectively, and that's the reason for the intersubjective agreements under this philosophy. Because rather than there being a physical apple on the table, what we're both interacting with when we look at what's on that table is that part, if you will, of mind at large, which is on the outside of either of our dissociated bubbles, where we both get to render that particular source reality, if you will, and so we can agree.
Okay, if I can do just a little bit of cutting to the chase sort of thing, because This sounds close to like Berkeley's version of idealism, where basically God is the mind at large that basically makes it so all the other minds will interact and have the same sort of intersubjective experience when encountering the same sort of thing. And if that's the case, then I think you're going to have issues when you say this is a good system based on parsimony, because premise one for this whole thing to work is God exists. And if we can't show that to be the case, that is a huge thing to throw in and say that's parsimonious, because there's one thing I've noticed about minds is that they are absurdly complicated. And I can say that because rocks don't seem to exhibit what we consider consciousness. Brains do, and the way brains are able to do that is because they are so mega complex and interconnected. And if you have another mind out there, it must be even more amazingly powerfully interconnected and complex. That seems the exact opposite of a parsimonious thing, that there's just stuff out there that bumps into each other.
Okay, so while I would agree that I think Berkeley was onto something, I think the way he made his case wasn't particularly good. So by starting with the premise one of God exists, I think essentially, like you say, you're adding a layer of complexity there. In the case of how, for example, Dr. Kastrup makes the parsimony argument, it's a bit different because it subtracts more than it adds. So going back to the intersubjective agreements line, only one of the postulates there is positing a new ontology, a new fresh ontology from the known. That's why I went through the first few initial steps to say that the experience happening is the known thing. So the experiential is what we know, and the material is more like it's a useful theory, and it is one way of explaining the subjective agreements. But the known category of ontology is experiential. So
here's the thing, though, because the thing is, though, all the premises you have are also completely consistent with materialism, because we can also go and say the reason we also have all that intersubjective, or at least some level of intersubjective agreement, is that there are material things out there that minds built in similar ways will experience in similar ways because they have similar structures. Moreover, as we continue to do science and we see, hey, it looks like the way that we have consciousness is that there's this organ in our skulls that seems to be very strongly related to our consciousness and conscious experiences, because when we change the meat, we change the way we experience the external world, which really suggests, hey, what's going on is here and it's ultimately materialistic. And I don't know how any idealism explains that without basically saying, well, science is right, but scientists don't know science. I really see that being a parsimonious issue.
Okay, you've said quite a lot there, and I think that there are ways that idealism can cope with the phenomena that you mentioned. So, first of all, I'd be an idiot if I denied that there's mind state and brain state correlations. You know, we're finding more and more of those, like, every day, it seems, and we're developing a lot of technology based on being able to even make images of what people are seeing or what they're thinking about, etc. So there's definitely correlation there, but the correlation in and of itself doesn't prove that there's a causal relationship. Now, you said there are ways of affecting the meat, and I do have to say, there are a lot of phenomena where it seems like you've got a physical system interacting with another physical system, having an impact on a mental one. However, that intuition that those systems that we're dealing with in the first place are in fact material or physical systems, that's based on a cultural default. It is itself a metaphysical assumption that effectively is begging the question, because they only
actually
give us
it's quite the
examples of
opposite, because our cultural assumption has been that we are mental beings, not a bunch of physical things adding up to something that forms mental. So quite the opposite. It's been actually pulling teeth to actually get us to realize it looks like we're actually material rather than something mental or spiritual, to use another term. So I think
you don't think material is a cultural default?
I think it's the conclusion of what science has gotten to. Go.
Hello?
Oh, I heard you. I'm saying it's the conclusion science has reached because of all the science we have done. Go back a couple centuries, see how many people thought that we were just a pile of meat.
Yeah. Oh, I see what you mean. I was talking about the modern cultural default, not the hereditary one where we come from. So I think that
and I'm saying the reason that's now the default
is
is that that's been the paradigm that's actually worked itself out and has actually fought against the default and even against our own intuitions about what the mind is or how the mind works. We've gone against all those intuitions because of scientific progress.
Okay, Aaron. The thing I was taking issue with here is that I'm saying that you were using a materialistic assumption in order to prove a materialistic conclusion. In that this whole idea that if we interact, say, with like we take a drink or we take a pill or we get hit by a baseball bat, then we've got an example of a physical system interacting with a physical system. But that is to put the cart before the horse in terms of assuming materialism in order to prove our materialism, if you see what I mean.
Here's the thing, though. Mm-hmm. Can you show any mental states independent of brain states? Because one paradigm explains everything, and yours requires it just happens to look exactly like the materialist system. It feels okay. So because I'm an American, I have to bring up this movie. Have you seen The Wizard of Oz?
Not in a long time.
Yeah, American. How does that connect?
Oh, because it reminds me of pay no attention to the man behind the curtain. Everything has to basically be ignored for the system to work. It's like, hey, materialism works for everything. It explains everything so brilliantly, including why we have these particular correlation states, which, and there's no way that an idealist was making those predictions, say, in 1800. Only a materialist could say brain states should map completely to mental states. If mental states can exist independent of the brain, why don't we ever experience or see any mental states independent of brain states? I think I caused your phone to go to sleep again.
Okay, sorry about that. Yeah, hopefully I'm back. My question, Aaron, is that it seems like you're suggesting that an idealist is incapable or prohibited somehow from utilizing a material model. But
what I'm saying is that basically the idealist can't do anything other than sit back, let the materialist do all the work, and say the idealist said, oh yeah, I can explain that too. And it feels not just lazy, but insulting to say materialism can't explain these things, but the idealist does nothing to explain it until the materialist has already done the work.
Right. Okay. I don't think that we need to assume materialism in order to make material models, though. That's the thing. I think that science is metaphysically mute. I think that we can.
Well, this is why I stated something clearly. Can you show me an example of a mental state independent of a brain state?
Why would you think I'd need to do that?
Because here's the thing. You are saying that mental is fundamental. So why is it that the case that mental only ever appears when it's completely correlated with one particular organ?
Okay. Yeah, I can tell you exactly why that is the case under idealism. Under materialism, the correlation exists because the brain state causes the mind state. Under idealism, the correlation exists because the brain state is the appearance of the mind state. It's what the mind state looks like from an extrinsic perspective. So the
problem is that has no predictive power, because that does not tell me, hey, if I take this probe, put it in your brain, what is it going to change with your experience? And why is it that, like, if I put you in like the correct resonating magnetic field, I can change your creativity, or I can cause you to see colors that aren't there, or all sorts of other weird things. Why would you even expect that?
That's moving the goalpost. It's moving the goalpost. If you want to
I'm saying the idealist can't even find where the goalpost is. The materialist has to show where the goalpost is, where the field is, cut the grass, paint the lines, do all the actual work, and then the idealist comes along and says, oh yeah, Us too.
Okay, well, I mean, you say that it's materialists doing all the work. I don't necessarily think that's the case. I think that the work is done without metaphysical assumptions. I think that those who are doing the work can make materialist metaphysical assumptions, but they don't have to. So I'm not.
But everything
not really
we do
sure
to the brain is with material. Everything we do is predicting based on non-thinking stuff working together to create consciousness and affecting things with non-conscious stuff into that non-conscious stuff, changing ultimately conscious experience. Again, this is
all of
what you would
which is the
expect
case
on
under
materialism,
materialistic
and you have to basically force it into idealism.
Everything you just said about the interactions there, you've said like a material substance interacts with a material substance. But what you didn't tell me is your case behind why you were saying that these things are fundamentally material in the first place. See,
well,
what you're having
like I
to
said,
do
growing
is say, in order to produce evidence for materialism, you first have to assume materialism.
Paul, do you have a rock nearby?
Hello?
Do you have a rock
What, you
nearby?
can ask me to go and kick it? You can ask me to go and kick it?
Not necessarily. No. I was going to ask you to look at the rock and tell me, is it conscious or not?
I'm right. I see where you might be going with this because panpsychists believe that inanimate objects are conscious. I don't think a rock is conscious. I think it's a process in consciousness. And that when we, as processes in consciousness ourselves, interact with that rock, that it appears to us on our screen of perception in physical form because physicality is the language of perception.
So here's the thing, though. It seems like we both agree the rock is not conscious. Let's also test a few other things. Is a scalpel conscious or not?
No, but again, it's a process in consciousness.
Is a magnetic field conscious?
I don't think so.
Okay. Why is it then that we are having this disagreement? Because here's the thing. We're saying I can take a resonating magnetic field and change a person's experiences. By putting them in an MRI machine and correctly oscillate a magnetic field can actually change their intersubjective feelings. That is something you just agreed is non-conscious, changing your consciousness. Paul, I don't know if your phone is asleep again.
So, yeah, sorry about that.
Okay.
I don't believe that it has to be conscious itself in order to be itself a process in consciousness. So, to give you an example of something internal, your hunger, something that you experience as a process in consciousness, that doesn't mean that your hunger itself is conscious. You're experiencing that hunger. It's your body's way of telling you to go and get food. That's a process in consciousness.
And mind you, all of that can be explained completely in materialistic, non-conscious ways. Interactions between the gut and the brain ultimately.
It can be explained that way. Yeah, it can be explained.
So
that
then
way.
there's nothing that idealism is helping explain. It's just saying, but it is somehow mentally fundamental.
So we're now on the subject of explanatory power. We've moved on a bit from parsimony. And I think that there are things that idealism can explain, which materialism struggles with. For example, where are we on the materialist theory of consciousness?
Actually making pretty good progress. Again, change the brain, change the mental state.
Okay, but what is it that's changing the brain? If it's just processes in consciousness interacting with each other under idealist assumptions, or if you make no assumptions whatsoever.
Paul, your phone just again decided to shut up. Oh boy. I'm sorry, your phone is fighting both of us tonight. Are you there, Paul? Oh no, we may have lost him completely.
It says he's still on the line. Paul, if you're still there, this is your chance. Paul going once. Paul going twice. I think we lost Paul.
Darn.
Yeah. Well, it was fun. Listen, you were cooking, and I didn't want to get in the way. I was letting you have there was a lot there that like you were onto some shit.
I was trying to poke around there. I was trying to see if he was going to go full panpsychism because I have a physics argument why that can't work, even though they say all of physics is consistent with it. But well, I'm a professional physicist, so I don't think so.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh man.
Yeah. I think the best way to put it is this: materialistic explanations for everything in physics has worked well, and then when we see, hey, those same processes are happening inside your skull, that should be the default.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm fine with that. We've got no calls left, but we do have an hour before we're already an hour over time. In 1 hour from now, we will have the Sunday show after dark. So tune in for that because it's going to be a lot of fun if you're into that sort of thing. But for right now, I think that's it for the two of us, unless you have anything else to throw out there.
Well, what I do need to throw out there is, Forrest, it's always fun to have the two of us on the line together and messing with some callers. You had a lot of fun with the mute button tonight. I hope we get to do that again, maybe before the year ends, maybe.
You know what's crazy? I almost never touch the mute button. I really don't. And I know there's people in the comments that hate that about me. I get plenty of comments that are like, God, I wish Forrest would mute callers no more. I really don't like to. But when it comes to somebody like Imperius, who is clearly just so fucking emotional, just is calling in just to hear himself scream. And again, I couldn't get over the fact that like this dude, when you really just step outside of it for a second and just forget what this show is, that dude is in his apartment, just fucking screaming into the phone, not listening to anything that's being said, and cannot literally cannot let someone answer a question. Answer me this. And then before the question comes out, you're scared of the answer. You can't answer because you're scared. And then, and the liberals and the trans people and the morality and the dude, if that guy's a lawyer, fucking Satan help whoever the fuck hires him to defend them, because oh my glob, you will go to prison forever. This man was jaywalking. Sorry, what?
I just realized. I think I know where he thinks lawyer stuff comes from. He is basically trying to be Colonel Jessup in A Few Good Men, where he's on the stand. You can't handle the truth, and he thinks that's a winning argument. It's like, no, that's the thing that gets you fucking arrested.
I'm an expert in various lawyerings. This man was arrested for jaywalking. How does he plead? You don't even know what morality is. I have a Juris Doctorate, and that's the same thing as a regular doctorate, and that means that I am superior to you, and you should bow. This is my courtroom now. Sir, you get the death penalty for jaywalking. Congratulations, your lawyer is insane.
And by the way, this is a Wendy's.
Yes, also. Who are you? Who let this man in here? God, it's just, oh my God, that was fun. But yeah, it was a very different show than what I usually do, but I had a lot of fun with it. Thanks to everybody. Thank you so much to everybody for watching and for participating. Thank you to all of our callers, even the ones that sucked. Thank you to all of our chat and commenters, even the ones that sucked. Sad that the fish man and the FBI guy didn't call in again, but hey, maybe someday those people will grow a spine and learn how to work a phone. Until then, thank you to our moderators. Thank you to our call screeners. Thank you to our producer. Thank you to all of our viewers. Thank you to Faya Halo for putting the timestamps in the chat within 5 seconds of every show ending. I think is it Faya or Faya? I don't know, but I appreciate the hell out of you. Thank you so much for doing what you do. Thank you so much for everybody else. It's incredibly cool. Thank you so much to everybody else for being here. I'm Forrest. That's Aaron. Stay skeptical. Stay science-y, never stop learning, and call in if you disagree with some stuff, I guess.
Read the shirt.
I love that.
Sleep. Science.
That's how you do it. That's life. That's the life.